Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, he's back. It's Tom. What's up, buddy?
Hello, friends.
Welcome back, brother. Also joining us this week for the first time, very glad to have him on the show. Somebody who I know already that I have a lot in common with just from like 10 minutes of conversation and following him on Twitter. It's Mr. Mephisto. How you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm great, and good evening, YouTube watchers.
Many people may recognize your voice as you have been a sort of ghostly amorphous voice on many of Haywo's videos, right?
Right. Well, what you don't know is I actually broadcast my voice using my necromantic powers directly into his cerebellum, and it comes out on the other side.
I assumed that was the case. All good
Makes
streaming
sense.
is done with some sort of form of like either psychic and or necromantic powers. Yeah.
Right.
Standard, exactly. So tonight we are going to be discussing our predictions, thoughts, whatever you want to say. It's part tinfoil hat, part extrapolation, part abductive reasoning. I don't know what it is. It's mainly us discussing the meta for probably some amount of time. So we're going to get into that in the feature segment of the show. But of course, first off, since Tom's back, he can now do an average job with the news again. How you doing, buddy? What do you got?
Rumor engine?
It's a 40K thing. Moving on. It's some kind of like, it's a little box with lights. It's short circuit head. Great. Next. I'm not even going to the picture.
Book that was released 2 months ago?
Sure. Yeah, there you go. Sylvaneth book launches this weekend. Finally. For real this time.
Yeah, the guys
Right.
They spilled the Pepsi on the iPad that had it, and it accidentally uploaded, and they managed to clean it out. But now it's out for real.
I do love that happened. Like, because obviously all of these uploads are scheduled things now, right? Like they upload these long in advance, and on Amazon and iTunes and all these other places wherever they have it, you obviously don't upload the project that day to go for sale. So it's going up like a month in advance, and then they set the schedule. And whoever's job it was to go in and turn all those off, that person had like the worst Saturday.
Oh my god. I can't even imagine.
They no longer work at GW.
I'm sure. I really hope they do. I really hope that person didn't get
Agreed.
fired. That would be terrible.
Right.
Like, we've all made a mistake at work, and it would suck. Put yourself in that position to be that person. Oof. Awful.
Well, it would be the worst. I hope they have grace.
One would hope. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Throw no stones. That's all I'm saying.
Right. See, I like to imagine the wild scenarios that must have happened for that to have occurred, because it really is just all on a, it's some of it's got to be automated, but a lot of it's all zeros and ones. So
Right.
They were walking with their iPad or something, and then they get attacked by Zinchian birds, and they're just running. And
Sure. There's some very long backstory that they were about to do it when suddenly somebody walked into their office calling because they were having a heart attack, and instead of changing the date, they made the great choice of immediately giving CPR. They helped the person get rushed to the hospital. They saved a human life.
Right.
But then by that point, they had completely forgot to change the date, and just, whoa, end of the day, they're like, wow, that was the craziest day at work I've ever had. And then 2 months later, they're like, oh no.
Back in the real world, I wish I was a fly on the wall when that text was received.
Sure.
Oh man.
I'm just saying, you don't know what's happening, right? But anyways, it comes out for real now. It comes out for real now this weekend.
I don't know about you all, but I've pre-ordered the Sylvaneth dice. Because there's nothing I like more than not being able to read anything on my dice. And I'm going to give them to my daughter because she's playing Sylvaneth. And I'll be like, here, I don't know what you roll. Just tell me.
See, this is like a trust fall exercise, but with gaming. Oh, man. Yeah, I was just ranting about dice yesterday.
I mean, none of the dice they make are intended to be rolled, right? They know that.
It's got to be at this point.
No.
Right?
So, the malign portents dice, I was looking for I was looking for Night Haunt dice, and I was like, you know what? I don't like the actual Night Haunt dice. Hey, look, the malign portents dice. Those look nice, and Jacob Berry probably won't eat mine. So,
You never know.
it's a test now whenever you look at dice. And I they're nice. I mean, they do have the problem of the dual symbol, like pips on everything but 1s and 6s.
Immediate pass. Hard.
I know.
Hard no.
I know. Skulls are the 1s because they're bad, and the little magic symbols are the 6s. It's fine. It's all just fine.
See, I agree with Tom. They're easy to read. The gold on black stands out real nicely. They're big pips, and the giant skull. There's a lot of rerolling ones when you're running Nagash and stuff. So it's just like, oh, giant skull. It almost becomes like a good thing.
Right. And so that was a year ago, a year and a half ago.
Sure.
And here we are.
You pick it up? That sure is. Not anything else that's been released since.
I mean, to the Squig dice and the IDK dice, and it's just
they're wound counters, and in that respect, they're fine. Like as long as you can read the number, if you're just using them as wound counters, great.
But can you read the IDK dice? Can you actually read them? It's translucent with like blue on translucent blue, like.
I mean, no.
And apparently you can read the Night Hunt dice in the dark because they glow in the dark, but who the heck is gaming in the dark?
Yeah. I do enjoy the fact that they made, we're going to talk about Warcry in a moment, obviously. Yeah. But when they talked about the dice that came in the box, did you see that they actually put extra emphasis on with symbols on the 6s? Like, we hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, you clearly hear us, and thank you. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I love that they made an extra beat of that, as I felt they were personally addressing me because I've complained about this, as have 1,000 other people many times.
I feel like we're vindicated.
Yeah. This is simple. It's a symbol on the 6. That's what it is.
Because 6 is good.
World. Yes. Yeah. Stop it. Stop other things.
I don't want to take a botany class to have to read the Sylvaneth dice. Like I think you have to count rings on a tree or something.
No, botany, you are way overcrediting. You have to read like the old school the 14th century alchemy manuals.
Yes. Like am I facing north or south? Okay,
yeah, no, it's a pass. But anyway, I'm glad you ordered the Sylvaneth dice. I didn't order the new tome yet. I have a Sylvaneth army, and when I saw what they were doing with the woods, I was like, nah, you can stay on the shelf. I'll get it sometime in the future. It's not. I'm just like I don't, and by that I just mean like you still have woods. I didn't want them to still be woods.
For anybody that does 3D printing, like 3D print designing, like the STL design files, you could make a killing by making a series of sculpts that roughly adhere to the bases of the trees, right? For the Sylvaneth.
Which, the new one or the old one?
The new one. Hold on.
Okay.
That adhere to those, the ring. But just make them little volcano. Like make like the little volcano stacks, you know what I'm talking about?
Okay. I'm not sure where you're going, no.
Like the shield volcano like cones, right? And then then you could the cones could be converted into trees, or people could do like ash, turn them like Akshi Sylvaneth, and then people don't have to buy 100 tree sets. They can just print them all off. And
you feel like this is $1 million idea you've got here. Like you feel like you've really clued into. First of all, I'm still not sure I understand what you're talking about.
This is the
you're saying. Just let's clarify Tom's nonsense here for a minute, shall we?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Go.
You're saying what you're recommending to the general audience here, who the 3D printing audience, STL.
No, I am recommending to the 3 individuals on our stream that likely know how to make
STL
files. Yeah,
I'm sure that
digital design.
Fine. That they make a ring basically in the same size and shape as
they
the
make
official
3.
thing.
They make 3 they have to have the footprint of the actual trees.
Yes, so it's the size and shape of the footprint of the trees.
Yes.
But instead of being trees, it's little volcanoes.
Yes.
Little mini volcanoes.
Yes. Yep.
This
so
is your
wait, because you can do a concept army then of dry brushing trees, like ashy trees with a little bit of glow effects, get a Sylvaneth army and be able to print your trees out. That's all I'm saying. and they're not trees, so they're not like getting in the way of everything. And instead of like foliage obscuring line of sight, it's smoke clouds obscuring line of sight. Done.
See, I'm picking up what he's laying down. I'm smelling what he stepped in here.
All right, so
and it's like a $7 idea.
Okay,
I love it.
Sure, man. I'm going to leave this to the audience to decide. I think I've made my opinion.
Who doesn't want little
clear.
volcanoes? Print little printable shield volcanoes.
I don't know how you think this actually aligns in any way.
It's a great idea.
The leap that you have got, this journey you've gone on. This is one of the more insane things you've ever sort of come up with. But okay,
he could do a whole line. You could have like a feculent Gnarlmaw volcano. Like it's the same like footprint.
Sure, the Ideneth Deepkin volcano.
Yeah, just like
volcano.
Just a cracked volcano.
Just all volcanoes all the way down. It's just like turtles.
Balewind volcano. So you stand on top of a volcano, but then I feel like whoever stands on top of the volcano, you have to model their hands to be like
the corn altar volcano. Yeah, sure.
It's a good idea, and Doom agrees with me.
The Null hole volcanoes. That'd be the same thing, just like a slightly smaller hole. That one does itself.
No, but nobody's making Nurgle lava concept armies.
This is, what are you talking about? What? Jeez, oh Feats. This is off the rails like right away. All right, what's next, Tom? We'll talk about Sylvaneth, by the way, in a couple weeks. We have, of course, just a. We will
do an actual show.
We'll do an actual Sylvaneth show. Tyler's going to come on. Of course, we're going to bring back the Tree Man himself. So that's already in works. It won't be next week, but it'll be happening. Okay.
Okay. What else? So like all of Warcry showed up this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's all there. Well, first off, let's start at the beginning. We had the Cipher Lords reveal over the weekend, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Poor TK players.
I'll pause for a moment. So, Andrew, what did you think of the Cipher Lords?
I like them. I really do. I saw them getting some like blowback on the Twitter sphere of like people not liking them. I think they're really cool, dynamic poses, stuff like that. They've got like the pseudo Asian Egyptian vibe going on, which I dig.
Yep.
And I also like basketball, so the Photoshop of like someone dunking on their foreheads actually makes them more appealing. I wouldn't run them though. They're not fully there the way one of the other bands is.
So what's your Warband hot pick, as that's been going around all weekend?
Oh, the Unmade. It's straight out of my Night Terrors. Like my RL Night Terrors. Like if someone took like them and sculpted them, that's what they'd look like, and it's so awesome. And I feel like the monsters inside need to be the monsters on the table.
Yeah, one of the awesome things, so there's obviously there's a Warcry chat and some discussion around it. Apparently in the Unmade, so the Unmade have those, like, they're wearing red helmets. Those are helmets. It's not actually their faceless.
Yeah, skull, they've got the little.
Yeah, they're wearing a helmet. And their faceless face is apparently underneath, right? But one of them is apparently, like, lifting up his helmet and, like, screaming because he's, like, showing that he has no face.
He's angry.
I'm all about that. There needs to be, like, an all skinless face option for that warband. That is awesome.
Yeah, like
these warbands, in my estimation, for my personal tastes, came out in literally an increasing order of quality. So, like, on a 1 through 5 scale, 1 being worst, 5 being the best. Iron Golems and Beast Tamers, Beastman, hot ones, terrible, hate them. Scuba Steve and the Beastmasters, awful. Do not like them. Ones.
So much so, by the way, just telling our audience, Vince is considering not buying the core box
because I hate them so much.
He hates them so much.
Yeah. Then we get the snake people. There are 2, a little bit better, still mostly done. Snake squeezers. Okay, bird people, right in the middle. There are 3. They're okay. Kind of the Zinchi thing from War. They're fine. Stilt man's weird. 4. Then we get to the Unmade. Solid 4. Now we're getting somewhere. Faceless dudes, weird prosthetic hooks, Cenobite feel, Yes,
Mhm.
I like where you're headed. Now we're into positive territory. And then finally the Cipher Lords. Solid 5 all the way down. Slam dunk. A plus
Literally
effort.
with the
Literally,
Yeah, literally with the slam dunk. I know we got a lot of Iron Golems fans in the chat, so but there you go. But here's what I'll say. I'm not trying to make a judgment, everybody. Don't get angry about the Iron Golem thing. What I actually like about this so much is that these 6 feel so different and creative and weird and original and interesting for the realms. And like I love that they're all like this, because there are going to be people who like hate what I love and love the other things, and that's great. That's freaking great. Right? Because there's something in there for everybody, and I think that's really wonderful.
You also get to think about what it does for the fluff of the world. Like it's really filling in there's these different like tribes marauding across, and they all have like different aesthetics, and instead of just like Khorne is this or chaos is this, it's actually like really looking at it kind of sideways, which I think is pretty sweet.
Yep, absolutely. It's like a good deeper look into the world, into how chaos works, into like at the sort of lower levels. It's a lot of really interesting aesthetics that frankly I could see built out more. Like and we'll talk in a second, because they already revealed the next 2 coming as well. And I'm pretty excited actually for both of those. Tom, what's your general feeling on the warbands that are revealed? Where are you sitting on these things?
I'm a big fan of like Eastern Light corrupted elves.
Sure,
the Cipher Lords, which is what I would argue that they are. I'm a big fan of ninjas, and they got me.
Sure.
Argument over.
I like ninjas and I like elves, so you have my attention. I would say that I think they might look really nice with IDK heads. And I might play around with that a little bit on the Cipher Lords. What else? I like snake people. The snake people
squeezers.
Snake squeezers. Yep. Kind of a fan of that.
So I think there's go ahead.
The rest are okay. I honestly I'm more excited for all of the the standard army warbands. I've been looking at what's been released of the stuff, and I'm like, okay, what do I have that I can still build out to make all those warbands? The question is how easily can I get to 10 warbands in my house?
Because because we also got the list revealed of the full of the 9 other armies, as well as what models are available in them. So
yeah, because the way the community is, at least for games like this around my neck of the woods, it ends up being me inviting a bunch of people who aren't really Warhammer players into my house to roll dice with me and play games. They're friends and they like playing games, but they don't own a lot of this stuff. And so I often provide everything for them. Right.
Sure.
And so I love the idea that I might be able to have 10 armies that people can put miniatures down for. And so I love the vast, and all that to say, I'm going to buy a starter, and I'm probably going to at least buy the Cipher Lords and maybe the Snake People right as soon as they're released. So that's I love everything about it. I've already began pricing the other stuff that I don't have. And what I mean by that is a starter box of IDK is going to net you 3 eels and 10 Nomardi.
Sure.
A starting box of Flesh Eater Corpse is going to get you 3 horrors and 20 ghouls. Right?
All right, so here you go. Let's do this. Quick rundown. Yeah. Ready?
Yep.
Stormcast Eternals, the Vanguard Raptors, Hunters, and Gryph-hounds. Nighthaunt, Chain Rasps, Grimghast Reapers, Spirit Hosts, and the Glaive Wraith Stalkers. Legions of Nagash, the Necromancer, Skeleton Warriors, and Graveguard. Ironjaws, Brutes, and Ardboys. Deepkin, Thralls, Reavers, and Achillean Guard. Gits, which we've already seen in pictures, so we know the eels are in there. The Deepkin, the Gits, Squig Hoppers, regular Grots, and Squig Herd. Flesh Eater Courts, Crypt Horrors, and Crypt Ghouls. Bone Splitters, the Savage Oryx, and Daughters of Cain, Caneri, Melusai, and Witch Elves. That's
the big win right here, by the way, for the army.
Daughters, because the Caneri, Melusai, and Witches, that's basically the entire Daughters army.
Savage Orcs.
Just because it's one thing.
$50 nets you 20 models.
Right, okay.
They got reboxed. Like, or it's got reboxed. And so literally you can make all 20 of your Warband soldiers out of one box. Like you only have to buy one thing and you get everything.
So here's my question.
Okay.
Andrew.
Yes, sir.
Out of all those, what of the existing warbands? Like you have plenty of death stuff, so I imagine you're bringing some kind of death to the table. But where are you at? What do you like out of the normal stuff, or out of the existing stuff, I should say?
Well, see, like I'd actually see this as an opportunity to dabble in Night Haunt, because I mean I'm pretty hardcore like Death Rattle and vampires if they ever come back. But this is an opportunity to go in and like dabble in some Night Haunt, and I've got Night Haunt boxes sitting behind me that I've literally never opened. But so Night Haunt I think are pretty cool. And like y'all said, yeah. Like y'all said, actually like Daughters of Cain, like it's just a good opportunity to like, what we wanted, right, is to be able to model on a small scale and like get people to play on a small scale, and you have a proper plethora, and appropriately no Tomb Kings for Tristan.
Well, let me just say,
that's all that's important.
Right.
Bullshit. Because here's the deal. In legit, here's the deal. Legions of Nagash, Necromancer, skeletons, Necromancer, skeletons, Graveguard. You know what that says to me? Lich Priest.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Sure.
Skeletons,
Skeleton Warriors, and Tomb Guard.
Tomb Guard.
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Tomb Kings Warband. Done.
Yeah. Yeah, but you'll look at those models, and every time you push them forward and someone asks you the rules, you're going to say the words of Legion of Nagash models.
Mm-hmm.
Feel a little bad inside, or have to lie to yourself out loud.
How much can you lie to yourself? Look, if you're a Tomb Kings player, lying to yourself is really foremost in your skill set. So it's
the requisite, yeah.
All the love in the world, Tristan. All right, so no, I think it's super exciting. And yes, to be clear, those were the kits I was naming, so it's not the units. So like Achillean Guard, theoretically you can use either eel type, right? And stuff like that. So like the Savage Oryx can be the melee or different kinds of dudes.
Well, yeah, and it seems like weapon loadouts are what's going to guide the stats and the abilities. And so like in the hunters, like you got to remember, like, so go to the Stormcast, like Vanguard Hunters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Vanguard Hunters, you have both swords and axes. You have the bits for the prime, and you have the bits for the guy that holds the globe, right? And so,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, and so like you have the globe, prime, those two, and then I think that there's one other set of bits. And so like you have the build outs for like 4 to 5 kits from that, or 4 to 5 units from that one kit.
Right. So we don't. This isn't the Warcry show yet, and there's still more Warcry news. So let's keep digging into this. They covered the 3 types to play, so that's all in there. I'm excited to mash all of them together. Multiplayer games in a narrative campaign, we using match play rules. Like that's where I'm living. I see no reason to leave any of these rules on the table. I was also thrilled to see that death is possible. Like that your warband in the campaign, people can die. Good. Yes, that's what we need. I'm all about that. So I loved everything I saw. Did you take a look at that article, Andrew? What'd you think of all the sort of narrative and the campaign stuff you saw?
I think this is this is where it should live, like as far as like a lot of narrative play and stuff like that. On that scale where like narrative is usually like a collective experience, I think, in gameplay. And Warcry does something that a standard, 4x6 narrative game against your buddy really can't accomplish, which is make you like really kind of incorporate you and extra people into like this progressing narrative. You have to try really hard to like build a narrative campaign, and it takes a long time with a traditional 2K narrative style game. Yeah. Whereas this is like literally you show up Saturday, it's basically you're dungeon crawling with your bros and like kind of like trying to like old school like backstabbing second ed D&D. I'm gonna get the treasure, like it's pretty great.
Yep.
And yeah.
I agree. I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention the most important thing they previewed from the Warcry release. That's right, we got our first standalone terrain kit. Third time's a charm to release the Garden of Moor. It's back again, this time with snow on it. It's got a new name again. We're going to sell those gardens.
I still have my Sigmarite Mausoleum unopened on top, and I have a full one painted.
You mean you have your Warcry terrain ready to go already?
Exactly, yeah. I already have a Warcry box. That's I'm ready to go, too. Got my mausoleum.
No, but you don't get the 22 by 30 board.
Oh, I don't get the snow?
No.
Okay. That was very funny.
It's two-sided. It's two-sided. We don't know what's on the other side.
You could 3D print a 2D volcano and put that underneath.
It's true. Legit.
That's a callback.
I think that I want to know what happened with this terrain kit. Like when they originally placed the order, did they mean to write like 1200 and like put the comma in the wrong place or something, or got like the comma decimal point thing of the difference between US and European confused? And then like, so they meant to have like 1200 gardens or more, and then pallets just showed up and it was like 120,000. And they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We're never going to be able to sell all these.
Okay. Well, so that what we have to do is we have to double the size of the kit. So put all of it, 2 of them in one box.
Now we only have half as many.
Yeah, no,
we have 60,000. We still didn't sell those. Let's create a new game called Warcry and sell this kit as part of it.
That's how they came up with Warcry. It had nothing to do with screaming about 40K. They needed a vessel to sell these.
That was the original inspiration. No, I mean, like, it is a good kit. Like, nothing against it. We're making light, but I really do genuinely like the Garden of Moor kit. It's got a lot of fun.
I loved it. I spent like a month painting it, and Vince made fun of me the whole time.
I did, and still do to this day. And stand behind every joke I made. But it's good for basing. It's good for actual terrain, for filling up a table. Like, it's good. It's fine. So yeah, awesome. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else we revealed. Obviously, I don't know if Tom, do we have all the prices yet? I didn't see the prices.
We do. The US, let me pull that up real quick. Okay. The main core box is a whopping $170.
So and that's go through what's in there.
It's in the pricing of never mind. Sorry. The Twitter is different. Why is it different?
I don't know what that means.
Sorry, like my laptop just updated to the new format. Okay. So Warcry, the main box is 170, where most of these boxes have been 160 recently. So everything that was 100 pounds, basically the US are still like, they're slowly increasing the price as the British pound weakens.
Sure.
And so we're up to 170 now for that core set. The book, if you don't get it in the core set, is going to be 40. The battle plan cards are going to be 18. And as an aside, I have confirmed that the battle plan cards come in the starter box, in the core game box. So if you get that core game box, you do not need to buy the battle plan cards.
Right. So the core game box is the 2 factions. Right.
Yep.
So your Iron Golems and your Beastmasters.
Yep.
Can we, by the way, just a quick call out here I want to make. Rob, Honest Wargamer Rob, and Nathan, you guys are the worst at making up joke names. The worst. That was a pedestrian attempt at the show on Monday. This is a call out right here, okay? Like, what were you doing, guys? What was that even on about? I need to see more effort next time we make up joke names. So, that one was Scuba Steve and Beastmasters. That's what comes in the base box, which is what I'm advancing as the joke names for these two. But I'm open to suggestions. At any rate, then so you get that terrain, the 2 monster groups, right? The Furies and the chicken dog monsters. Right?
The book,
the chicken dog dinosaurs.
Yep. The book, the cards, and all your tokens.
Yes.
So it's really good deal. And just accept that Warcry box is going to sell out like every other starter box that's released for every single one of these games for the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want that box, you need to pre-order it, or you need to buy it as soon as it goes on pre-order, because you're not going to get it otherwise. So just accept that.
And the dice. Don't forget about the dice.
And the dice with 6s.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Shout out to Mark in the comments.
So moving on. So those are the books, the cards. The Warband Cipher Lords are going on pre-order at the same time. And they are going to be $50. I don't know how many models come in that Cipher Lords box, but $50. It seemed to imply in the chat from those in the know in the WhatsApp chat that like people will likely need to buy multiple boxes.
Okay.
Of a Warband, like you can buy a box of Warband, and that's that should give you your 1,000 points.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to like build out your roster to swap troops out, you're probably gonna need to buy multiple boxes.
Gotcha. So you have a full playable army out of one box, but if you like really want to, if you really want to sort of have more options, it's multiple boxes, which wouldn't be surprising. Like, okay,
right,
that seems fair.
Yep. So it's not surprising, but like because there will be different build outs with bits of like different weapon options and stuff like that, and those are going to be different units, different points, stuff like that. And so you're going to buy at least one of a box, possibly two, depending on how deep you want to go into like a Warband, basically. Unless you're buying Savage Orcs, then you will buy one box ever.
Sure.
The other stuff. So the card packs for the new Warbands, and this is what I just loved. So we're getting Stormcast Eternals, which is basically the Vanguard chamber with Gryphounds. Nighthaunt, IDK, so Ideneth, Daughters of Cain, Legions of Nagash, Flesh Ear Courts, Gloomspite gets Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters.
Mm-hmm.
Each pack of cards is $8.
Not bad. So, and that's if you have the existing models, assuming you already have, let's assume you have some kind of terrain already, right?
Yep.
So like actually your buy-in, if you have any of those armies, is realistically like somebody has to have the core book. So let's say you go buy the book and your cards.
Yep.
And like that's really probably it, because the book does have the battle plan generator thing in it as well. I mean, you just can't like flip the cards randomly, but you can roll it out on a table in the book. So
right. Yeah, okay. and the cards will come with like all the stat cards. It will come with all the stat cards, it will come with the abilities card for that faction, and it will come with like a backer card. So there's this like backer card thing that will like you'll set underneath to put your tokens on for each of your troops or whatever. So to track that.
I gotta say, I like how I like everything about this. Yeah. You had a really good summation of this that I thought was actually like spot on. Okay. I mean, do you want to give your analogy to what Warcry is based on? Sort of, because there's like a lot of the rules leaked out. We're not going to deep dive on all that, but I thought your analogy was actually quite apt.
Which one? I don't remember.
It was your word zoom in analogy.
Oh yeah. So Warcry, if you're wanting to know like how the mechanics are going to work, because like models will have anywhere between like 10 to 30 wounds or whatever. Like some range of wounds, they're going to do damage from like 2 to 8 or something, depending on crits and stuff like that. And actually what this is imagine like in a Word document, right? And you're looking at the page at like 100%, and then you zoom to like 500%.
Right.
So you just scale everything, right? And so instead of a model having 1 wound, it has 10 wounds. Instead of an ogre having 3 wounds per model, it has 30 wounds. And then the damage is scaling appropriately. Likewise with points, like in a 10-man unit that was worth 140 points, let's say these points are not accurate, so don't quote me on this, right? Sure.
But a model's like 14 points, now it's 140.
Yeah, now it's 140. So it's basically, and you're building at 1,000 points again. So the part of the problem with Kill Team, for anybody that built warbands for Kill Team, was that you only had 100 points, and so the granularity was so minute, because they chained the game to 40K and the same profiles that were in 40K. But because they're allowing this to kind of expand out and zoom in, it allows them to tweak the values and get a lot more precise scale.
Yeah. So Andrew, what's your overall feeling based on everything we've seen thus far? What's your overall feeling on Warcry? You happy with it? You excited for it?
I'm very excited for it, and it reminds me of it just reminds me of when I was first getting into Warhammer Fantasy. My friend and I only had a couple models, and we would make up our own systems to try to fight them against each other and have our own scenarios. And it's just it's doing that, but doing it right and doing it well, and on a scale that I think is going to be a ton of fun for people at every level of this hobby. Which is what you want. We wanted Kill Team, and what we got was better.
Yeah.
Well, better for us.
Agreed.
I will say it's going to be a lot easier to teach younger audiences, because there's very little reading. I don't know if you guys are have looked at the stats.
You're saying because a lot of it is picture based and stuff.
It's all
like that?
picture symbol based.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so teaching those rules are going to be really easy to my kids.
Nice.
And when they pick up a new warband, they'll easily look at it and go, okay, it moves this much, it has this many attacks, because it's all much like Underworlds. It was all picture based, but it doesn't have all the reading that Underworlds does of all the upgrades and cards and stuff like that.
Oh, you're just going to see numbers in a picture, and the picture is going to be associated with an action, essentially.
Right.
So you
just it'll be very quick. Yeah, it'll be very intuitive. The one challenge that I think I'm going to have, and it's not a bad challenge, but it's simply getting used to, is that there's no defense roll on any of the units. So there's no saves. They've worked in defenses into the hit points themselves.
As part of the toughness number or whatever.
Right. And so basically you roll a single die. And if it's a hit and it hits on a certain number, right? Or if your strength or toughness is higher, that number goes down. So if your strength is over their toughness, you hit on 3s. If your strength is equal to their toughness, you hit on 4s. If their toughness is higher, you hit on 5s. 6 is always crit. That's it. And so you roll the dice, and if you hit those numbers, that's how much damage you do. There's no defensive roll. There's no reactive. There's none of that. And so it's a very straightforward, very quick calculation on resolution in combat.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so I'll look forward to digging into it. I mean, I'll openly admit I haven't read all the leaked rules because I just haven't had the time today.
I haven't read all of them, but I stayed up late and read some of them last night.
Sure.
I'm not gonna lie.
And then we should mention these two quick things, which is one, that the at release it's going to be all the things we talked about, like the core box and the book alone and cards and all that crap, and then the Cipher Lords, the good one, the best warband is what's going to be available at release. So that's good. We don't need to worry about the rest of it.
Right.
And then the rest of them will follow on shortly after.
So what you do?
Go ahead.
Oh, what you do is you just buy your core box, and then you sell
That's what I told them.
factions just straight to the Australians because they seem to love them. At a markup of $1 dues, and you make back your money.
That's a good point. That Australian $1 do. Good conversion right there. So then the rest will roll out, and then we already know the next two, right?
Right.
Which is the Scions of the Flame, which is the missing Akshi warband we haven't had yet.
Yep, those got leaked.
Yes, and the Spire Tyrants, which is the warband actually from the Varen Spire itself, that occupies the 8 points. Or the all points now, or whatever. 8 points. 8 points now.
8 points.
Yeah. So that's awesome. And the cutout of we haven't actually seen what any of the models look like. They just have the those impressionistic silhouettes. Yeah. The flame guys looked pretty cool because they look like they're gonna be they eat the heart of flaming lava monsters, and if they don't melt or explode, then they've passed the test. So
Screw those guys.
Cool.
Metal.
Those are my lava monsters. Screw those guys.
Sure. But then the Spire Tyrants, what was cool about them is they looked a little more like traditional chaos, right? They looked very Chaos Warrior-y, the kind of cutout. So I'll be interested to see if we get a new take on the sort of traditional chaos aesthetic.
It's just Slambos as far as the eye can see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Just all Slambo all the way down.
I think what we're gonna see is you had kind of called it, I think, last week, that I think that we will see an update of the Chaos Warrior kit, and then that will be the kit that you build that faction, that the Varen Spire guys out of.
I have to agree, by the way, with Jordan here in the who said it? I'm sorry, Sam in the comments, who said the Australians love the look of the core guys because giant rampaging beasts remind them of home. And if you think about it, Australia being a giant island full of deadly monsters, it would make sense that either like scuba gear or people who are good at surviving beasts, these are both necessary skills for what I assume it takes
to survive.
Yeah. Also, if there's a realm gate on Earth, I assure you it's at the center of the outback.
Sure. No, I mean, you're not wrong.
Australia's good.
True. Cool. Did we lose Vince?
I see him here.
Oh, he's muted. Ha! Who is king now? Okay. Australia is Gur.
I'm like, oh no, are we gonna have to like the last thing I talked about is the Australians. We just have to segue with that forever until Vince comes back.
We're gonna talk about what are we gonna talk about? We're gonna talk. So, what faction do you want to see them release cards for next?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
no, I can't.
Yeah, there we go.
No, we can't.
That's fine. You can still answer the question. It's a good question.
So,
what do you
Andrew,
want to see them release cards for now? Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, like.
Does Tzeentch have them yet?
None of the gods have them. There are 0 gods.
Yeah, so like I feel like maybe we could get some like, where is Tzeentch? This seems like a very like Tzeentchian plot thing to disrupt. Where is he in this whole rating of the 8 points tower thing? That'd be pretty sweet, I think. Also, like Enlightened and Zangors like all look really heavily elite to begin with. So like you have a pretty sick looking warband right there. Even though I don't necessarily like Tzeentch on the table, I think that'd be a cool like.
Sure, and realistically, you could go that way with any of the god stuff, right? Like you could have the Chaos God stuff get into the mix. Sure. Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, I would love a Zangor based warband. Like that, like that appeals to me in such a significant way.
Like Nagash is throwing his nose into the mix, like, and he's kind of a big deal. Nagash.
I would. Like
that is the appropriate pronunciation, by the way. I completely agree with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're right on. You're pronouncing things perfectly to be on this show. That's exactly.
I have no response to that. What I'll say is, and the other one, obviously, that is low hanging fruit that I would love is Skaven.
Yeah, Skaven would be sweet.
Yeah.
I would love to see the rat show up.
But in all honesty, I want a new Eshin. What I want to see is like a new Eshin band completely. Like a complete box of just Eshin. That's what I want to see.
Yes. Back to the ninjas. Now we're on the right page. Okay. That's right.
Yeah. All comes back to the ninjas.
Yeah. So you can have a ninja fight. Like the Cipher.
Yeah, the Cipher Lords versus Clan Eshin. Yep. Yeah, it's just like just people whipping throwing stars at each other and sneaking around.
You know, the band that wins that is the one with the least ninjas, though.
Yeah, fewer ninjas always beats more ninjas. It's a good point. Yeah. No, you got me on that. It's 100% correct. All right. So, good stuff on Warcry. And here's what I'll say. I think probably our remaining piece of news is that this weekend, right, the 20th, this coming weekend, this Saturday, is the Aos Open Day.
Right.
I had originally wanted to head over there, but given my schedule over the next 2 weeks, that wasn't really possible, so that's fine. Martin is going, so I hope Martin has a good time over there. And my specific thought is they'll probably, like, okay, here's my call. We're going to see the Slaves to Darkness, Everchosen, whatever, Dark Oath book at the Open Day. Because they'll reveal the rest of the stuff for Warcry. They'll talk about it a lot. It's going to be a big push for Chaos. And this book has got to be like...
will be like, come to me.
Yeah, and it's got to be like 3 weeks away. Yeah. Right? Like, it's there like 3 weeks, a month, something like that on the back of Warcry is when the Slaves to Darkness book comes out.
Well, the whole thing is...
they'll reveal it there.
With Warcry, the whole thing is they're hearing the call of Archaon.
Right.
In their own different way and stuff. And what better way than to like reveal the big boy himself, right? With his new maybe new model.
No
No
new
way.
model.
No?
0%
way.
chance.
I can
Yeah.
dream.
Would you not like the existing Archaon model? It's amazing.
I think the dragon heads look a little derpy, but those are easily lopped off and converted, I suppose.
Well, they're not dragon heads. Those are
the not dragon heads.
They should be dragon heads.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. They look like dragon heads to me. I don't know. but yeah, like I can't think of a better setting to release it, right? Like, because they're gonna do a preview thing. What would be the more like that is got to be
that's the hype. No, that's the hype. I mean, I agree with you. Like, that's the play. Like, that's where you go with it.
Yeah. So
gonna be
one can only hope. All right.
Now think about what's the best thing, and then like invert it, and that's what it will be. It's gonna be elf.
Sure. So a new Stormcast chamber. Got it. Okay. Cool.
There you go.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Sure. Look, it's been more than a year since we've seen a Stormcast chamber reveal. It's time.
I know. We're the clock's ticking. We're at a year.
As long as it's not anything to do with ogres, we'll all be fine. The world will go on as normal. So
no, that's later. Like, ogres are coming this year. Like, whether people wanted them or not, they're here.
Right around the corner. Cold Fusion, Army of Tomorrow. All right. So let's move on to some pick of the week from the news. So, Mr. Mephisto, what would you like to share with everybody out there? What blog or video or anything would you like to share?
Well, I'm not gonna rep Haywo Twitch because that would just be too easy. I'm on there all the time. I'd actually like to talk about a pair of other guys from the Midwest, Wisconsin, Milwaukee area. In particular, the Playin' and Slayin' podcast with Ty and his crew, where they talk some AOS, but they also kind of delve a little bit into like general tabletop gaming. And recently, I began sponsoring the D&D section to see how many characters Ty can kill weekly, and that's like my favorite part to listen to every week.
Nice.
And then the other would be just Cubic Shenanigans with Brendan, the boogeyman of Wisconsin, and his buddy Stormcaller Dan, where you get a little bit of like the super impassioned Dan side of the podcast, and then on the other side you get Brendan his cold-hearted lawyer side, and it makes it for a fun dynamic when you're listening.
Nice. Tom, what about yourself?
I haven't been engaged with the community at all this week.
So Tom is, by the way, entering just so we all know what's going on with Tom. Do you want to explain some of what you're doing here? Because like why this is suddenly,
I mean,
I
really don't.
Disengaged? That's fine.
I really don't. But so I am entering into the last year of my program, and I have 6 months to finish my dissertation, like a hard deadline. And I'm writing right now, and I'm doing not a lot else. And like I have events on the calendar that I may have to pull off. So if I'm scheduled for one of your events, potentially expect me to send an email and open up a spot from the wait list. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. But we all wish Tom luck, and he can finally not be a student at nearly, you got through half your life being a student. So you almost did it.
Oh,
you almost did it, Tom.
Home stretch.
Yep. I'm almost out.
That song's beginning to play. You can see the finish line.
That's right. Yeah. Eye of the Tiger, Tom. Let's go. Get on. Solid loop, 6 months straight. All right. For myself, I want to direct people toward a hobby video, specifically by one that was recently put up by Trevarian, who's a painter that I enjoy his stuff a lot. And he put up a really fun video about edge highlighting, something that I know a lot of people struggle with. And he really breaks it down, like how to use your brush and different techniques, and basically how to properly sort of maneuver various surfaces and get edges, and when to use stronger lights and weaker edges and stuff like that. And it's a really good video. So check it out. I will link it below. Everything we talked about will be linked below. And since Tom didn't have anything, I'll pick a second one, which is Yes. Which is, we'll shout out to LV since he specifically asked for it in the comments. I'm down with that. We'll spruik it.
Yeah.
LLV and Rob did a wrap up vid talking about wrapping up sort of the previous GHB and the stats from that. And so there you go. You can, I will link that as well because it was a really good show. Anything that LLV's on with Rob is always he's elevating the content there. So, you know, there you go. It's apparently pick on Rob night. I don't know why that started, but I'm just going to roll with it now. But at any rate, it's a really good wrap up. So I will link that down there below because you should absolutely check it out because it's going to actually dovetail really nicely into what we're talking about tonight because that was the meta of what happened over the sort of past. And we're going to talk about picking up from now into the future. There you go. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some hobby time. What have you been working on, Mr. Mephisto?
Well, I've actually had an army in the lab, we call it, for a little while, and just kind of waiting to see where the meta falls on it. And then you released your contrast painting video with Vestigor, and I took it as a sign to finish my army. So I actually got my first experience with contour paints on Monday. Haywo drove up here. We hung out for a little bit, and we just played around with a couple models, like checking them out. So that's where I'm at. I've got a pile of 10 of my 60 Vestigor sitting right next to me, recently assembled. Yeah, so just getting those guys done, trying to get them done for Circle City, basically. Not rushing anything. I don't want to do that. I paint them, and I can't go back and make them look good in the rush to get them table ready. So just kind of, using the contour paints, sure, but not going too far, so I can go back in and do some like edge highlighting, metals, stuff like that.
Right on. Nice.
No.
It's always good to see some Vestigor hitting the table. They are the best.
They're so good.
Igor. The best Gore. The best Gore.
It's in the name.
It is right there in the name. Like it does what it says on the tin. It is the best Gore.
Yeah, it is the best. Also, their models actually, like the kits themselves. I mean, they come with, you got this is your sprue allotment, right?
Yep.
So it's a lot of poses, a lot of heads, you have that problem where when you're putting them together, you're like, did I put together the best possible arrangement of all this extra crap that comes with them? So I think that's a good place to be in for them.
Yeah,
really cool.
My only issue with them, as always, is any model that has two-handed weapons is always kind of annoying.
Annoying to put together. The way you have to. I had a technique for like one box, and then like I took it like the first 40 I assembled or whatever, and now I'm like doing finish the next 20, and I'm like, what was that thing I was doing? Or I was putting on like one arm, and like it's just like it's different every time. It's weird.
Yeah.
So.
The only time I think they did that really well was with the Melusai. Like with the snake women who have the big long spears, because they're holding them like this. They're like their arms are way out and extended, so you can still like very easily access the body, which is nice. So
right. I mean, it's cool. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I hate it when they're like pulling in like this, right? Like the Space Marines, they're like holding their bolter like it's like it's their precious, like that's just awful.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of that I think with them, but there's also a lot of look at this axe, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, or like this.
Yeah. They have some pretty dynamic poses. I measure everything in terms of Namarti thralls. It's the unit of measurement is 1 Namarti thrall for how good of a sculpt is, and you usually get up to 1, but you can't go exceed it. I put them at a 0.75 Namarti thrall unit of measurement.
I'm not sure I agree with that unit of measurement, but I understand what you're going for. That's fine.
Right.
I would probably have a different gold standard, but I take your meaning.
For a foot troop, I think it holds.
They're solid. I don't know if I'd pick them as my top, but they're solid.
Fair enough.
Tom, what's on your hobby desk, my friend?
Well, this is the first time I've been.
Don't leave us all in suspense.
This is the first time I've been at it in 2 weeks. And I'm working on Night Haunt. I had to clean off all of my Fire Slayers because I probably won't be taking them to an event soon. So, working on Night Haunt.
Curious. Not taking Fire Slayers to an event.
Yeah. Well, you know, you've already been threatened physically in the comments for that, so
I know.
I'll just let that ride.
Yes.
At any rate, myself, I'm finishing up this particular endless spell right here. So there's the mirror and there's the hand. It's all done. I just need to put it together. So that's how that all came out. This is a fun little endless spell. So there she is. This made me want a keeper that's this size, right? Like I want the actual keeper that's hand this belongs to. Like this would be the hand. I need to like reconstruct this into the full size keeper. It'd be amazing. She'd be like this tall on my desk.
You could do the really famous painting, you know, like the keeper secrets pointing out to like a daemonette or something. And do a full mural that way.
Yeah. So, but this is cool. This is done. This is my last little thing I had to do. I still have one more keeper to do, but I'm saving her because now it's time to turn to my display board for maybe that similar event that Tom is talking about that I will certainly be at 100%. And there's big plans for that. Big plans for that display board. So,
am I allowed to know which event, or is this part of the joke?
You know, it's just
all of the events. The answer is potentially all of the events Tom cancels. That's what
I got it.
Oh my God, if there is a 3-up for the Keeper of Secrets that exists, if that exists, look, open offer. You just name it. You name the price. What do you need? I'm there. Like, what is it? For a 3-up Keeper of Secrets?
Vince just walks in like Batman in the Dark Knight, you know, and when Christian Bale is playing in the fountain and he just like writes a check.
Yeah.
Vince just does that, like sits in a fountain and hands a check to someone at GW.
Absolutely. You know, like I'm just saying, reach out to me. We can you know, if it exists, let's talk. At any rate, so I'm working on that. I got a good game with my Iron Jaws this last weekend. I couldn't hold off on playing them anymore because I've been playing my Slaanesh exclusively, but I got in an Iron Jaws game and it was as fun and awesome as I imagined it would be. And I loved every bit of it. And Iron Jaws are awesome. So there we go. Okay. So let's turn to tonight's segment, shall we, gentlemen? So the new GHB is out. A new season has begun. That is right. We are now in the new meta period. And we're going to talk about, is the new meta same as the old meta? Has anything changed? What's up? Where are we at? We'll do a little bit of like maybe tiering / striating / whatever, but I don't want to get lost in the weeds here because anytime you start labeling things, then it's just everybody arguing like, that's not tier Zeta. I think that's tier Omegacron. Like, okay, cool. That's super great. Like, I'm glad that that's a necessary conversation we have to have. Instead, I'm more interested in kind of the broader concepts. But Andrew, I want to start with your take. Okay, I want to begin with. We're going to begin with the Mr. Mephisto hot take, which is the following.
The following. Okay.
Here's the question. Okay.
Yeah.
Is the current meta post the new GHB? Is it any different? Is it any more competitive? What do you think of it overall? High level view.
This is my favorite part of competitive play is essentially like meta predicting and like trying to outgame the meta and outgame each other. And Age of Sigmar has sort of been lacking in that. There's usually been the top dog army or the obvious pick. Even coming into call it AOS 2.5 or whatever, even coming into this season, you know, 4 months ago it was looking pretty bleak. Flesh Eater Court Skaven as far as the eye can see, if nothing changed, right? If they didn't handle the GHB well. This is the most fun I think we're about to have. I think you're going to start to see that actual metagaming of each other, where you have lists and armies that actually counter each other in a more direct sort of rock, paper, scissors fashion than you ever have. Trying to be vague before we get into the specifics, but it's kind of difficult to talk about it. Something like KO is sort of the hero we all need right now.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that a lot. Yeah,
and so like
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Like and that's going to start to shift the meta into like, okay, KO beats these armies. Well, what beats KO? And there's not just one army that fills sort of any of these roles like there used to be. Like I said 4 months ago, we were just staring at this going, gross, right? And so there's enough new armies, there's enough new technology undiscovered for like gaming other people's lists and gaming yourself. Like it's a great time. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
right.
and with like any of my hot takes, like just what I believe and what I'll kind of delve into here is it's just part of like the aggregate of knowledge someone should take into their mind when they're deciding what to play or whatever. It's just one voice amongst many, and you know, take an aggregate of all this hot, sick knowledge we're about to inject into you right now, and then make a decision from there. But things are looking up.
Right on. Tom, what's your thoughts? Same question.
I am not as positive.
Okay.
Oh, God.
I think that there are some clear winners, and I think that there are some hard counters to those clear winners.
Right.
But I think that what will happen, and I think that there's tech that still has yet to be fully realized.
Right, which we'll talk about. We're going to talk about like potential ways this will evolve. But for right now, and for most of the discussion, we're going to assume what we have on the table is what's on the table right now.
Right. And but
up to and including Sylvaneth.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say is that I don't think I think there are a lot of strong second tier armies.
Okay.
And I think that there are a handful of top dogs that just simply beat those second tier out of hand.
There's still an S tier, is what you.
Yeah,
right?
there's certainly an S tier, and the only thing that takes out that S tier are like KO, or potentially some other shooting stuff, some stuff that can remove serious pieces early.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not as hopeful. I think that it's going to be a very frustrating. I think it will be not unlike, and people are going to scream bloody murder when I say this. I think it will not be unlike our prior meta, not the one that we just came from, but the one before that.
Change host
which had change host and Vanguard at the top. You had 2 S tier. You had a bunch of stuff that was good but couldn't beat the S tier. And then you had some hard counters to change host.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really hard counters to Vanguard, but there are hard counters to change host. And that's where the meta landed, was something like that. And I feel like that's the space we're going to be back in, that, at least until some new armies drop and they mix things up a little bit.
My perspective's not unlike yours. It's just a little bit more optimistic, I think, because I'd agree that there's certainly like a couple like true winners, but I think you've got more tools to deal with them right now. Than you maybe would have, again, 4 months ago, where you're just looking at this going, how do I fix it? How do I solve this puzzle?
Yeah.
You could hand me an army, and I, provided it's relatively new or got some relatively recent love from the GHB, like say IJ, and I could look at that army and go, how would I take this against Flesh Eater Courts or Skaven, right? Like I can do that now. And 4 months ago, you hand me IJ, I'd be like, I can't beat Slaanesh. I just can't beat these armies with this.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. Here's my bold prediction. Okay.
Okay.
I'll take the rosiest view, because I actually think I have the rosiest view. Okay.
Okay.
Which is fine. I'll be Mr. Positive. Like we're all guessing here. So like whatever you think is right, viewer, you're correct. Because time will tell, right? It's fine. So here's my belief. My current belief is that we are about to enter one of the most competitive phases in the history of AOS, with more armies competitively showing up. Now, I do think there's an exception, and there is going to be a new army that's going to perform kind of like Doc did, right? Like it'll have a win rate that's going to be at like somewhere
80%.
in Doc's performance. I don't think it'll be that. No.
Slaanesh.
I'm saying like it'll probably be like in the 70, 60, high 60s, 70% range, right? Sort of like Doc when it was kind of under control.
Sure.
And my argument is that's still Skaven. I don't think they've gotten beat back enough. And in the current meta, they have all the right tools to still capitalize.
It won't ever be Skaven because it's too enticing to middle of the road gamers, like not high tier gamers, and so they will lower the percentage.
It's too cost prohibitive for those people. It's an incredibly cost prohibitive army. Disagree completely. It's not Stormcast. And look, like you can break down LV stats however you want. Okay, like my point is they'll have an outsized win rate by some measure. Okay, maybe it's the 5 games, maybe it's the number of podiums they have, maybe it's something. Okay, I think they're still an outsized threat, but not so off kilter that they're breaking the world. Okay, they're not going to be affinity. Are they going to be annoying and probably more powerful than they should be? Yes. Is that like the biggest problem for the game? No. Will they still lose? Yes, all the time, like frequently and commonly, right? Will there be plenty of top 3s where they don't feature in tournaments where people were playing them? Yes. Okay. But I'm saying they will have an outsized, sort of size. All right.
Right. They might. No, go ahead.
So, but my argument would be the rest of everything is all going to basically swim in pretty even waters. And it's a big list. Okay. Like a big list of stuff. Maybe the biggest list we've had. Post all of the recent points changes, minimal as they were, those things can have a big impact when suddenly an army swings around just slightly. I have a couple questions and we'll deep dive in on them because there are things I could see getting in the way of this prediction that I don't know how they're going to react. Okay. Yep. But like when I look at the list of things that I see as competitive that I would expect to see showing up podiuming in some number of tournaments, I look across the list and I see a big number of stuff. Bigger than I think I've ever seen. Okay. That's my argument.
There's certainly I think, and that's where I kind of am coming at this. I think there's a large breadth of armies that are above that. Just it's viable. It's actually, you're not an idiot for taking this army to a competitive tournament and thinking you can do well now. And there's more armies on that list than there ever were before. Going forward, Skaven is still probably the best tome. Slaanesh tome is pretty good too, but it's got weaknesses. Whereas you look at Skaven and you're just like, they didn't hit the things that were like a big problem as big as they should have hit them. And everyone just had 80 Plague Monks on their shelf, not playing them because they didn't want them nerfed going into this GHP. And okay, wow, little slap on the wrist. You don't take the extra 20 vanity clan rats now, but your 80 Plague Monks are now on the table along with your full complement of shooting and your full complement of support and casting. Yeah. That list now is going to start showing up, which really we haven't seen the optimized Skaven list previously because everyone had their Skaven armies for the most part sitting on the shelf, just ready for them to be viable. And so they grabbed what they already had, brought it out, and played with it. New players kind of rushed to assemble the army that maybe didn't know the full nuances of the tome. And meanwhile, the other veterans of the list were just biding their time, waiting, putting together their Plague Monks. Some of the new technology they got access to, and we're about to see them just kind of start being like bullies. But luckily, I think there's a couple of there's a couple of bullies out there to keep them honest too. And
I don't think it's exactly right. I don't think they're going to be they're not some unbeatable thing.
Yeah, but they're undeniably
above the curve.
Yes.
Yeah. And look, what I'm saying is that you're going to look at the percentages, and I'm not saying that suddenly everybody's going to fall to 50%. That's not the argument I just made, right? Nobody heard me say that, right?
Right.
I said there's going to be this fat middle tier wherein a lot of people are going to fall within similar percentages, and depending on how you slice it, depending on the lens you look at these stats through on a go forward basis, I'm saying start the clock now and go forward, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously, LV will track it from 2.5 or whatever this counts as going forward. And my opinion is that I'll just say let's put a flag down. Okay. And I'll say most everything Maggotkin forward is going to be in that fat middle. Okay. That's my argument.
Stormcast won't be.
I don't know that that's the case. Maybe not. I don't know. But when I look around at most of what's there, I see a lot of potential there. I'm not sure that's true for Stormcast, by the way, buddy. I'm really not. Between Shootcast and Vanguard and stuff like that people have been playing with, there are some strong answers to what's out there right now. So I don't know that I agree with that point of view.
Stormcast still take an auto loss in most tournaments, which is unnecessary. Like the way I started looking
totally fair.
Yeah. The way I started looking at this meta and trying to like sort of quantify it is going back to a little bit of an older rubric, which is how many wins is this list? You know, 4. This is the 4 winner is a 5 win, right?
Yep.
And Skaven's a 5 win, like pretty much. You know, ideally played by a good player, it's a 5 win. And that's how you have to gauge these armies. And you take that same player, then the good player who's familiar with the list, playing a good list. Stormcast get an auto loss because of what's in a pack. So we give them half an auto loss because it's not going to be in every tournament pack. But it's something you got to be aware of. They don't necessarily outshoot the other shooting armies with a asterisk of they actually are going to have a really fun matchup against KO because KO is going to do their drop down trick and like surprise I'm in the sky, and you're going to play deployment chess, and then you're going to play a proper game as Stormcast versus KO, I believe.
Well, no, they'll force KO down, otherwise they'll zone KO off the board.
Right. Yeah, like, and they just have they're going to play deployment chess. So like you have this like this is what I'm talking about. How like I see this meta is evolving where you have these power check systems.
Yeah, kind of like hitting back, a very rock paper scissors thing.
Yeah, and then there's Mushroom, and Skaven is Mushroom.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. So let's actually transition to that. Like let's have a little discussion here about what is either like what's outside the curve. And the sort of the curve could be perceived. I'm making an argument. I think the curve is going to look more like a bell curve, right? Where there's sort of a fat middle and sort of standard deviations out there. Mm-hmm. Maybe some people who are viewers think it's actually more of an inverse bell curve, right? Or something like that.
Whatever.
That's fine. But what falls on the like too good, too bad, tops and bottoms, these types of thing? Like what's your takes for things that are still outsized? Do we all agree that Skaven is still going to punch above its weight and be a dominant threat?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're all in agreement there. The points shifts were nice and welcome. The rat trap change was good. It was not enough. I said it on the original GHB show. I'll say it again now. Good. Directionally good. Like we went some of the right direction. We just didn't go far enough. Okay. Right. But okay, cool. All right. So what else? Andrew, what's your take?
Recency bias, Slaanesh. I've been writing Slaanesh lists, and you may have seen a photo of Haywo like on the internet having played Slaanesh versus Iron Jaws and something like 70 depravity. It's the thing I think about Slaanesh is I called them the new DOK in a similar way that like you're kind of referring to Skaven, where I think they're just gonna outclass like what they should. They're gonna be really decent to pick up. I thought they'd be underrepresented, but like I was wrong on that respect, so I'm sorry about that, everybody. I was wrong. Because I didn't think just everyone would flock to just run and buy Slaanesh out the gates like they have. But what I notice about the army is they have weakness, right? They're still not durable. This isn't full DOK where like they're glass cannons without the glass. So they're just
they don't have DOK's main strength. Yes.
Yeah.
But they have a completely different advantage, but they don't have that.
Right, and that's exactly it. But they're still kind of like 10s across the board and everything but that. And if you swap out, there's a difference between durability and resilience. It's still a resilient list because you swap out, okay, I'm not taking models off, or I'm taking models off, but I'm putting models back on that are then putting models back on. It's
by the fistful.
By the fistful. Yeah, it's just in droves. And it's going to be overwhelming. I don't know if people are going to give it the respect it deserves early enough. And one day, like 2 months down the line, people are just like, I can't beat Slaanesh. Because when you're killing them, they're still imposing their will. And when they're killing you, if you're playing soft to like, I don't want to give them too much depravity or something like that, then you're giving up the board. They make you do something that I love as a general strategy. If I were to teach, if I were a coach of Age of Sigmar, is give people 2 bad decisions to make against you. And that they're the army that gives you 2 bad decisions. And by the way, it's not a decision because they're in your face. They ran across the table, like blazing fast. They're lower drops. They have some decent battalions, so like they're going to dictate the pace. But honestly, they don't. Provided they get around to a hero phase and they still have heroes on the board, they almost don't care who goes first, which gives them that other hidden advantage where you can really play the double turn game. They're in a like. I think they're going to be nasty, and I think it's what people were thinking of Flesh Eater Courts, but not as overt, because when you play Flesh Eater Courts, you're like, it doesn't matter if I charge them or they charge me, I still lost, because you see the combat happen. With Slaanesh, you're going to have the feeling of progress because you're taking their models off, and then it's just going to be like, oh, here they are, and now they're back. Sure. Enjoy.
Okay.
And so that creates a different type of experience that you have to kind of think about as like the removal of progress when you're playing against an army. It's the Legion of Nagash thing, essentially taken to the next power, I think.
Okay. Yep. So let's make a statement here about the bottom that I think we can sum up quickly. Okay. Mm-hmm. Which is many things pre-Maggotkin that haven't been updated again are going to be weaker, like especially the sort of armies that have never really been touched, or like there are exceptions.
All your elves,
Yeah, like most of the elf stuff. That is to say, the not IDK, not DOK elves, right?
I disagree.
Okay, cool. I look forward to hearing that.
I think there's a mid-tier elf list, like a competitive high elf list using Compendium Scrolls.
Okay. All right. I'm excited for that. Is it Swifthawk based?
No.
That's a shame.
There are no Swifthawk models in it.
That's fine. I understand all your Swifthawk dreams died with that FAQ answer.
I felt bad. I was reading it and I was like crying. It was bad.
But like a lot of those types of things, BCR, still all the fundamental challenges, Gutbusters or Ogres, like all that kind of stuff. If they get a book, hey, world turns around, but for now, they're still where they are. The interesting things from those kind of earlier times, I think probably have some interesting gas are things like, I think Ironjaws with the new life that got breathed into them in GHB have real life in them, like real life. They're still not going to be, they're not a dominating army, but I think they have real life now.
Who did you say?
IJ, Ironjaws.
No, I agree with that.
I mean, they got help the most of those sort of like just armies in need of help from the GHB. They're the success story. They're the A+. This is exactly what a GHB could do for a down and out faction by giving it new allegiance abilities and giving it the right points cuts. Right. They didn't do that for everybody.
No,
STD is just like languishing in agony.
Well, and again,
book, right? We're hoping for the Dark Oath STD thing, sure.
But as of now, I completely agree with you. They are just, it's a non-army.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have some non-army tier stuff, right? Like, and that's just an unfortunate place to be in. But provided you're new to the game or you've been playing for a year and you're like, okay, it's time for me to buy my second army. It's, or I'm going to get into the game. What should I play? You're not going to point people towards some of that janky stuff if you're a responsible friend.
Sure.
You're going to say, what do you want to play? They're going to like kind of talk about a couple different things, and you're going to help lead them towards, the facts of how the armies play and interact with some other stuff, and then they're going to make an informed decision from there. That's kind of what this is all about, You're going to say, fair warning, Skaven, Slaanesh, Flesh Eater Courts, especially Flesh Eater Courts prior GHB, I think they got kind of the right change. They got half the right change they needed.
They got closer than Skaven did, is what I would argue.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are, like, my Beast of Chaos army, just thinking about playing Flesh Eater Courts before, I'm like, I can't fight them. I'm a combat army, a pure combat army without tricks that's just going to run into a dragon and get blown up. And so I have to play keep away the whole game and not do combat, which is the thing my army does. So, you have that, like, sort of, that hang up with some of these new armies where you're like, certain armies just don't have the tools. That being said, a lot of armies kind of do. Fire Slayers, Flesh Eater Courts, Khorne. I
absolutely look. As I said, I really think everything post Maggotkin, which Khorne is obviously included in because they've had a new book, is going to be basically showing up in the competitive middle. And out of the quote unquote older or non-book things I would include in there, here would be my rapid fire list. You ready?
Yeah.
Here's my rapid fire list
of middle tier.
What's that? Of things that are could be approaching middle tier and are going to be somewhere in that fat middle. Okay. How fat it is, we can, I don't want to get into an argument over, right? But the point is that somewhere in there. Ironjaws, Bone Splitters, KO. KO just are going to sort of accidentally come back because what they have is on offer is actually quite good in the current meta, and they got their points reset back to where they were a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever the heck it was.
2 years ago.
Yeah. Right. So Ironjaws, Bone Splitters, KO. Disciples of Tzeentch, right? Because of their points drops, like even though they haven't had their new book yet, I think they're absolutely back on the table in a big way through Change Host or perhaps a couple other builds. And Seraphon. Okay. Like if Adepticon can be won by a Seraphon player, they can, then other Seraphon people can do.
They just got a
good
Phantom
work.
nerf though. Their teleport got worse.
Their teleport is whatever it is now. I am saying that I think they're like, and we can argue they're in the bottom of that middle, and I wouldn't even fight you on that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm saying that I think they're in that middle somewhere.
Okay.
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 And what that fat middle represents, what percentages, what do we tolerate in there, right? Like, what's the match win percentage range that we're allowing? We could have a big discussion about that, right? And like, I will leave that to sort of the time to come. But what I'm arguing is that within that thing, that you will see them occasionally. All those armies, the books plus that stuff I listed, you will see them occasionally podium. You will see them have a decent match win rate, that kind of thing, right?
3-2, 4-1, right? Like
you'll see that kind of thing happen. Yes, exactly. So that's sort of my argument. Yeah, I don't know, Tom. What do you think about that? Is there anybody I missed or anything you think we didn't hit in there? Any tops or bottoms we haven't mentioned?
Yeah, so I think that your Bone Splitters are going to be a lot higher. I think that they're top tier. I think that they will rank above most of those armies. Just simply until their book gets revised, and then who knows where they're going to land. But they're going to be able to push up hard. I think that well-played Sylvaneth armies are going to surprise people. And so I think that Sylvaneth actually sits in that middle tier, like real solidly in the middle tier, middle upper. I think that Beasts of Chaos actually sit in that middle upper. I think that I still don't think that we've seen the truly refined Beasts of Chaos list.
Don't worry, I'm working on it.
Beasts has a lot of. I agree. Well, let me say this. I think it's out there. I think lots of people are playing it. I just don't necessarily know that all of them are going to tournaments or that the scene has been exactly right. But I think Beasts have gas in the engine. I agree. Between all the different god marks that they now have available and what they've they're at.
I think a true Beast army, not like a Tzeentch Beast army. I mean a Beast army. I think there's gas there.
They're not running nearly enough Vestigors.
Well, I mean, they can be one drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Handily.
And zone people off and have lots of bodies and you won't be able to farm any depravity off of them. And
single model. Model.
I think and they have shooting threat.
Desolating is fun.
Yeah. So what I would say is I think that there are truly let me say it this way. I think there's a reason why the Team USA is taking Beast of Chaos list to ETC.
All herd. They're going all herd.
Yeah.
I think the experimentation has ended with Gabspawn because they realized what I've realized, which is it's too finicky.
Yeah.
And kind of attacks.
Yep.
Especially in a shooting meta, it's a 50-point derpy foot slogger that just gets
it's not worth it.
Bang headshot, to hinge your whole strategy on it. Mm-hmm. No, I would agree, but don't give everyone my technology live on stream.
No, I still stand behind Gabspawn for your just fun pickup games.
No,
that's a hilariously fun army for your pickup games. Go ahead.
Agreed. And I'm gonna ruin tech. I've ruined one of my own. I've ruined some of my own tech, and it's become a list that I think people are. It it will be a bad play experience. And we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
so,
it's going to be an item for talking later.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. I think that I think KO are going to be super hot in that they'll be super hit and super miss.
Still matchup
like they've always
dependent.
been.
Still matchup dependent. Like, and that's the thing is like they're still matchup dependent, and one of their weaknesses has kind of gone away in that old clown car could be in one spot, right? It was just here we are. They can actually do like some 2 frigate stuff now to where they can be in 2 spots.
I think we'll see Mixed Order come back in a big way.
Okay.
I think that there's real
through the devoted of Sigmar, of course, recent second place podium receiver at a tournament over this past weekend, as we all know.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's not what I'm talking about. So that's what I'll say.
Okay.
I'll end it there.
Nope, fair enough. All right. So that's my principle, is that there's like all those armies I listed. So I mean, you can run down the list, right? So all of that, I would argue, falls into the fat middle where they're highly competitive. I'll also say, like, I want to pick up on your Slaanesh point you raised a while back, which is here's my take on Slaanesh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I don't want to hear your take.
Well, it's my show, so there we go. Here's my take on Slaanesh. I agree with you. They're going to have an outsized win percentage. Okay. I agree with you. They will be a top boogeyman army. They're going to be discussed as though they're the boogeyman in all of our favorite sort of online information exchanging venues.
Just don't go to Facebook and you'll have a better opinion.
I never do. But they'll fill this boogeyman role.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. They're going to have especially in the early part of this new season, they're going to have an outsized win percentage. You will watch it slowly deteriorate. Okay. And like then Doc. We'll get what's that?
Like Doc. That's what happened to Doc.
Sure. And then we will watch, then the points update will come out on the half when we get that. And our points will go up, even though by that point we've fallen almost back into line with where you would think it should be. We'll still get adjusted.
I think the points are great for like when I look at a model and I look at a war school. I think the points are epitome might be a little aggressive for how reliable
people point to, and I don't disagree with it. Like
everything else is like a keeper of secrets. Heck, locus of diversion is how I think you want the activation wars to play out. You want something that has the illusion of fallibility, in like that it can fail. And you want something that you can play around with clever tricks, so that you can feel like and that's exactly what Locust's diversion is you feel like you can play around it, and you feel like it can fail. It's good. Plus, it's hinged to like a hero individually instead of like just an innocuous whole army happens, stuff like that. So you have yet another way where you're like, I can take out the hero, I can play away from the hero. It doesn't enable other stuff in the list to be like super oppressive if I can separate that hero some way, whether it's, blocking bodies with some endless spells and cheeky play, like whatever it is. And like I said, the points look fine. It's just the depravity. It's just kind of...
It won't matter. We'll get the points adjustment because in the first 3 months when these results are being collected, and they have an outsized win rate that they didn't deserve because they are not actually that good. Okay, but they will have an outsized... quality of result.
Performance.
Yeah. Yes, they will perform. They will punch above their weight. Okay.
Right.
Early.
Not because they're actually that good of an army, but because they will.
Okay.
And then people will learn and things will evolve and armies will shift. And there are such obvious Achilles heels in that army.
Yes.
Where it will naturally get knocked down a peg through several different mechanisms that will happen as adjustments occur with it, but then the points will adjust up because that's when things will get decided.
Yeah,
and I don't care. Good, fine, great. Then we cannot be the boogeyman anymore, and it'll be Legions of Nagash and whatever. That's sort of, they went on that same track, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Legion of Grief is going to be up there as well.
Yeah, Night Hunt too. I think Night Hunt and Legion of Grief, they're kind of a horse of peace. Okay, no. No, like just sell your Grimghast Reapers and buy Hex Raids. Like no, like don't do that. Like even for the Legion of Nagash players who were running.
May be assembling a Hex Wraith as we speak.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I looked at the points on it. No, 'cause I'm a Legion of Nagash player. Like I'm Beast of Chaos is the current project, and I've fallen in love with them. I really have. But like Legion of Nagash, I'll always come back to my Death Army. Right. It's when I first started Warhammer Fantasy Battle before the split between Vampire Counts and Tomb Kings. Army Book Undead. I will always come back to that army. And yeah, what you're saying is about to happen to Slaanesh is exactly what happened to like Legion of Nagash. Like basically Daughters of Cain and Legion of Nagash were robbing banks like a year ago. And then like they heard the sirens of GHB 2019, Slaanesh Daughters of Cain handed Nagash the bag and ran around the corner, and like it was just hands in the air, Nagash. Like that's what ended up happening. It's kind of brutal. And like, you know what? Now all the kids are off my lawn, so I don't even care. I get to play my army with less guilt than I felt before. But like not like this. If you just waited, it would have sorted itself out, because the neck technology at the end of the day, you're a combat army with Legions of Nagash. You have spells and tricks, but you win by pushing models into their stuff and hitting them. And you don't have activation tricks. You do have double pile in, but it doesn't matter. You're not going to get the pile in when Fire Slayers like just blow you off the table, activating twice before you go, or whoever else that is able to.
Don't know what you're talking about.
So it's like, yeah, okay, cool. You can bring back 40 skeletons who used to punch above their weight classes at 280 points. When they're dancing, they seemed like a steal. And then like now you're like, oh yeah, just keep bringing those back, keep bringing back, and that's where I think Hex Raids fit in, because they're actually a proper anvil. But those are just in my army. They're replacing my Black Knights.
I think we can all agree, by the way, with the comments that said hashtag bring back mummies. I agree. Let's get the mummies back in here from that original Undead book. Yes. Wisely said. All of those who are calling for that. I fully support the hashtag bring back mummies.
Yeah.
It worked last time. When I was on the stream, I started the hashtag release the hounds. Boom, we got the plastic dogs. They came out. So I'm just saying it works. So there it is.
You got a platform, abuse it. I mean, use it.
All right.
Indeed.
So that's my opinion on Slaanesh. Whatever. And it won't matter. Good, fine. We will be unjustly adjusted, and I don't give a crap, because if it means that we don't have to argue about this anymore.
You all like pain. You all like pain.
It's fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
I welcome the masochism is more than welcome. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's super fine.
Right.
Like I never asked for this, so I love the army regardless. It's fine.
Right.
At any rate, let's talk about some of the interesting sort of things that we think will evolve. Let's dive into some elements here that I think can sort of shift the meta around or act in an interesting way. Okay.
Can I also make a statement real quick?
Yeah, sure, man. What's up?
I don't think that Fire Slayers are actually going to perform how people think they are.
Okay.
I think that Fire Slayers are an auto loss on at least one scenario, maybe more.
What's the which one is the auto loss?
Anything that requires them to get across the table.
Okay.
And like there are enough of them that you just have to get across the table, and especially like the like new total commitment where it's like eight objectives.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
don't mean total commitment.
Not eight. Sorry. The new Scorched Earth. Yeah.
Scorched Earth.
Like anything that's going to force them to push across the table is going to be a significant issue. They simply don't have mobility, and even deep striking. Like I don't think you all like. I just don't think people understand. I've put them on the table. I know what they can do. And the lists that are going to be successful are non-standard lists. I'm going to say it. I think the most successful Fire Slayer lists are going to be shooting lists.
Yeah, I actually I was prepared to debate this because I do think Fire Slayers can step in if what happens to Slaanesh, what Vince thinks is going to happen to Slaanesh happens to Slaanesh. I think Fire Slayers will step in as a boogeyman, an undeserved boogeyman into that vacuum, because people are going to look at the unkillable blob, right? And they're just going to hate on the army. Now I have a couple sort of a nuanced perspective on that. The
Sure.
blob isn't as immobile as you think, first of all, because I've played skeletons, four-inch move skeletons. In fact, I on purpose played skeletons over wraiths for a little while. I did I did abuse Black Knights a lot, to use Black Knights to set the point of attack and to like go out and be a missile, and then boom, this is where we're going to fight, and just run skeletons every turn. Their superpower being in the old meta, I don't care if you attack me or I attack you. I'm getting where I need to go, and I'm going to absorb the hit, and then I'm going to pile in twice and blow you. I'm going to recur skeletons, pile in twice, and do what I need to do. The thing with a slow army is you kind of got to get in motion early and know where you need to be on the battle plan. And it got to the point with my army where I know the battle plan, and I look at my opponent and go, what are they trying to do to stop me from playing the battle plan? Okay, they can't. Boom, go into motion. And as long as you get into motion that turn early, and then you can use your double pile-in tricks to essentially shimmy around units and get a little bit of extra movement in the combat phase, you have double activations on your Hearthguard Berserkers. They're a little bit more mobile than people are giving them credit for. That being said, yes, they're still going to have problems with like the new Scorched Earth, I think, in particular.
They can't move through endless spells. And they can't remove endless spells. And it's going to be, and we can talk about that, as we transition to the next topic, Vince.
Yeah, I mean, let's just, you've opened the door on this. So let's just get into it right now, okay?
Yep.
Which is the one big question mark for me in this evolving meta is endless spells, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So let's sketch a scenario. Let's sketch out, I'm going to set out some...
One real quick thing. I just wanted to end on that I do ultimately agree with Tom, though, is that what you're going to see is people move away from the blob, add more guns.
Sure.
And like a Magma Droth, the same way I use Black Knights, now soon to be Hex Wraiths, you're going to see people using Magma Droths. Just run up, set the point of attack, shoot, move around. Like
I agree. I never thought the blob had any real gas in the engine. It's too much. Like Death Stars have never worked in AOS. So okay.
Right.
I didn't think it was going to suddenly start now when we introduced an 8 objective scenario into the world. Like it didn't make Death Stars better. But okay. So here's your potential world.
Yeah.
There are multiple armies that I would argue exist in the competitive landscape. Let's call it the fat middle. Okay.
Sure.
That can have, or even at the top, because Skaven are one of these, that can generate something like 9 to 12 casts a turn without too much of breaking a sweat.
Yep.
Okay. Like that's a pretty reasonable number of things they can do.
Yep.
There are also a fairly decent number of armies that realistically probably have two unbinds or dispels or casts. Okay. Period. Like in their standard builds, in any of their competitive builds.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Now, if I'm somebody like Nagash, where I can, just 8 spells.
Right.
The problem was you'd often have Nagash in turns where he just literally had nothing to do with his 8 spells, right? Like my favorite thing to do when I could was just give the turn to Nagash when he's standing over on the other side of the board, and he'd like buff a couple things and then be done. And, he'd be lucky to use all his spells. Depends on what realm you're in, depends on what other options there were.
Right.
Okay, whatever. But now, between mercenaries and the endless spells that exist and the new endless spells that came out in Forbidden Power, right? And the faction-specific endless spells, there are a lot of different, like, let's call it wall-like endless spells that you can generate, and or wall-sized endless spells you can generate, to the point where that army who can generate 10 casts, right? Can... And has a 7 to 8 cast advantage, can just use all of those spamming potentially non-predatory walls onto the battlefield, right? Some of them maybe they are predatory, and who cares?
I have a Fire Slayer list that I can put down 3 non-predatory walls.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So then they can like spam out all these walls. Non-flying units just are stuck. They're just you can't move through them because it's in your way, right?
Right.
And even flyers, sure, you can go up over the top, but it's like it's clogging up the board. It's still causing issues, right? And so the question becomes: is that a strategy that twists the meta in some weird way? The endless spell spam, not in attack spells,
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Like I'm not talking about unleashing 8 anvil like D6 mortal wound, or sorry, the swingy thingy. I'm not talking about unleashing 8 of those that are doing a D6 mortal wounds. Some version of that. I understand you can only cast 1. The point being is that actually the more dangerous world is where you're just setting up like plop, plop, plop. Here's the here's the FEC wall. Here's the Fire Slayer wall. Here's the Prismatic Palisade. Here's other things of that size that are basically non-predatory or predatory, but who cares? Also get to control half of them, right? And I'm just gonna like wall you in, and who cares if I give you the turn? You're stuck. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like worst case scenario in that world is. And not only that, like there's going to be some hinky tricks where you can pull people into combat through a wall. And then they can't actually reach you and can't ever actually engage you in combat. But they're within 3 inches, and so they're stuck.
Like they have to just either retreat or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And
I think but they can't retreat out of 3. If you wall them and they can't get out of 3, they can't retreat.
Sure, if you could somehow box them in terrain, but I think even what Tom's describing is like literally you just throw up the wall. It's more that you have more than an inch there between their edge of the wall and where you're standing. You walk up to an inch and a half, or you charge in. The problem is, Tom, you had to end within a half an inch on your charge, right?
Right.
Are you saying you remove your initial models out of combat and then stick yourself there?
There will be ways to do that. Like you can kill out your own models. You can let them come in and kill out so that maybe like they get 3 Hearthguard Berserker in range of your unit, or 2 Hearthguard Berserkers in range of your unit, and then they're just walls everywhere else and stupid spells that can't move anywhere and can't do anything. The king of this tactic will be Tzeentch.
Sure.
Because they will be able to do all this, and they'll probably be chain chokes, so they'll be able to move everything around.
And they'll already be flooding the board with stuff.
They'll already be flooding the board with stuff. They're going to have all of the body tricks or the model replacement tricks of Slaanesh, because they're going to be putting down horrors, and horrors generate more points.
Yep.
And all of their horrors will be able to attack over most of the walls and most of the things because they shoot.
Sure. It should also be noted that Tzeentch is really interesting because it's an army that absolutely gets stronger the deeper the game goes. Right. Tzeentch is stronger in turn 4 than they were in turn 1.
Right. Yeah, and so I think that this is going to be a real issue, and I think it's this type of thing why Fire Slayers won't be competitive is because that, like, if they match against an army with walls or with like lots of endless spells, they can't deal with that. Like, there's not enough tools in their toolbox to deal with endless spells, period.
Sure. And there's a good portion of that, of just the current armies that are around, that arguably would fall into that position. Right. Like Doc falls into that position.
Daughters of Cain. Right.
Yeah. Nurgle falls in this position. IDK could fall into this position. Right. Like, there's plenty of armies. Now they have flying, skippy, fast eels.
Right. And like their advantage is the eels, that they can jump over the walls.
But just if we're sizing up casters, it really is the case right now that, like, largely the armies split into, like, I have 8 to 10 casts and I have 1 to 2. Right. Like, that's how they tend to work right now.
And y'all wanted Nagash out of the format. I was keeping them honest by running them out of dice.
I didn't want him out of there. I love Nagash as a backstop.
9 unbinds a turn, and I was just, no. Get that out of here. Dikembe Mutombo, just not in my house.
Yeah, no one flies.
No, I think if people abuse it enough, it's gonna have to get to a point where you see an FAQ, and most of the endless spells just don't block movement anymore. Like, and the other thing is, like,
it doesn't matter. Like, even if they don't block movement,
palisades and stuff. Yeah,
you won't be able to move across them. That's the problem.
I see.
It's because of the physical placement of the model.
You can't stand exactly where that model is and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I get you. They also added more terrain to the board specifically.
Yeah.
But don't worry, they did give you the negation terrain or whatever. So, like, there's your light at the end of the tunnel.
But that's not. I mean, at the end of the day, because those walls aren't moving. Right.
It doesn't even work the way you think. Like, where, like, the spell, like, I'm going to aim my Wildfire Taurus at one of those negation
you want it to just, like,
disappear. Yeah, like, that'll be rewritten hopefully. Otherwise, like, can't wait to abuse that one. Like, let's go. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so it's it's interesting how, like, whether or not that's going to be a thing. And Tom, this is an interesting question that LLV posed in the comments. I feel is worth highlighting. You know, he made the point of, okay, but does that army have like a timeout problem, right? Change Host is already a pretty time intensive army to play. And if you start playing the wall game too, where you're just like sitting around, do you just literally like, are you not finishing rounds? Does that army just give the bad feels and people just tend not to play that stuff? Like, I don't know.
I think people will play it if it wins.
Fair enough.
They played Change Host back when Change Host was broke as shit.
Bring an essay if you beat me with Change Host because of like, and we're in round 2. You better have an essay describing how you've beat me when you've played for 2 hours and I've only played for half an hour.
Right, sure.
Like, you better, otherwise we're taking a draw or going to a die roll. I will be it. This is the one time I will be a giant asshole. Because if you're bringing an army that can't actually, pardon my language, I'm sorry. If you're playing an army that can't actually play the game of Age of Sigmar in a tournament setting, like, that is frustrating.
Oh, sure.
Well,
it's okay. We're PG-13, by the way. You're good. You haven't broken the
you.
standards yet. Go ahead.
No, but what would happen is this. They would move all their pieces and they'd be like, go. And then you're not going to be able to do anything. You can't move. And so then, like, you'll move a little bit, you'll jostle, and you'll be like, go. So it'll be a pass back and forth. I mean, like, and they can shoot you, and you won't have a lot of reprisals. That's the problem.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you, Gary, by the way. The defense wins. At any rate, okay. So, I mean, I am very, very curious as to where this one evolves. Because at the same time, you do have some interesting sort of things in the meta that push against this. Yes, Nagash got more expensive, and that's a shame. Because I agree with you. He's actually an interesting counter to that, right?
Right.
But
He runs a lot of dice.
Maybe his point increase ends up being, people still go, well, it's worth it because he's a good counter. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, in a world where that becomes a strat, he becomes an interesting counter to it. And maybe people look at that and go, you know what? Maybe after all, 850 isn't that bad. I don't know. It's not like he suddenly became illegal.
And this is why I think, by the way, that Skaven and Slaanesh are S tier in this world. Because they have responses to the wall.
Well,
like, they have real responses.
They have the cast to match it, right? They can sit there and unbind.
And they can
have a
do
ton
it
of bonuses
if they want.
it.
And they have high mobility, and they can teleport, and. Like, so, like, Skaven, like, the problem is that this tactic doesn't work against S tier armies. This just works against everybody else.
I would argue that I'm not sure. Slaanesh has some tools. Calling it doesn't work is going to be hard. Like, certainly your Harpist is a good counter, making people reroll the spells. That being said, it's 24-inch range. Your birds and your irrelevant things could sit out of range, right? And that Harpist is also relatively easy to kill or shoot down or spell off.
And
right?
you just summon a bunch. You literally just summon them onto the table.
Okay. Sure. I mean, maybe not. Like, I know everybody says that. Do you summon the Harpist into the place you want it when the board is getting flooded by Change Host crap? And you've got to summon 9 inches away from the enemy? I'm not saying you can't summon it at all. I'm sure you could. The question is, did you just summon it anywhere where it's actually doing anything?
Right.
Okay. Right. And I don't know what the answer to that is. Because if I'm playing Change Host, I would just flood them out of being able to summon into a range where they can stop me.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So
what you do is you flood, you wall, you flood, you wall, and you just keep like hopping across until you've taken.
And meanwhile, I'm just picking your just blowing down your heroes. And yeah, sure, you want to burn all your DP, getting new Harpists out. I mean, they're 12 DP now. Okay, they're not 6 anymore. So like, that's not the cheapest summon in the army. So yeah, sure, you want to burn your whole army summoning Harpists that literally can't do anything the turn they show up, and then you got to scoot their butt forward into murder range to reharp. Okay,
but you're acting like Change Host is just going to goldfish Slaanesh. Sorry, MTG term. Like they're not. Gonna,
I know a goldfish. No, I don't. I don't think that. I think they're actually an interesting counter between the Harpist and the Epitome, which is a great dispeller. I think they have tools. I'm just saying I don't think Slaanesh slam dunks in the opposite direction.
Sure.
I think it's probably like this kind of match.
Right.
All right.
They just have really good game actually in that landscape.
I think it's interesting. It's
super spammy like capabilities, and like they could. When I was playing Nagash, I'm like, I actually played against Nathan Prescott's like spam list at just a random pickup game at Adepticon, and I'm like, he's competing with Nagash in the spell phase, and like, it was one of those things like you theory crafted, but then like in practicality, does it really happen because the moon's random and all that? No, and
Yeah,
like
sure.
straight up, like this was like I'm resolving half my spells with turn and stuff, and I'm just like, this is spicy. This is the kind of spell duel I want as like a player, but I know some other people don't necessarily care for that sort of thing. But I thought it was great. So Gits, I think, are going to have like
Gits could have some interesting potential counters. As could obviously the big question mark here, which is in a world where this sort of magic does become a dominant thing, does the value of Khorne then suddenly shoot up commensurately, right?
Which,
because
by
they
the way,
have
Khorne can play this game too.
Stuff. Sure.
Like, because, and guess what? Because they have big bases on all those prayers, and you can't get rid of them. There's nothing you can do to them. What?
They self unsummon though, so like
sure.
Yeah, they can self-destruct, and now you're playing a turn. Like I don't think it's as oppressive. Like I don't think it's as oppressive as like any of these other spell spam lists. But Gary Percival actually in chat a while back said like a really good solution, not necessarily being able to run through the models, but actually treating them like obstacles where you can spend movement to go up and over and stand on them.
Sure,
might be a better solution.
Yeah,
pretty
where they become like literally a wall.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like so it'll be interesting to watch that evolve and counter evolve, because there are a lot of tools out there. Like, does the value of Khorne and their Hexforger skulls and this kind of stuff, and dogs who are all rocking dispels, right? Like all the dumb dogs that have brass collars and stuff, right? Like Khorne can pack an ungodly number of unbinds and dispels, right?
Right.
Some of which have bonuses. Do they suddenly find a lot of value there? I don't know. But here's the next. Let's jump to the next shell game here. Ready? Because there is an obvious answer to the walls beyond just this sort of magic spam, and it's the answer that is the answer to everything we've discussed thus far.
More guns.
Which is more guns. That's right. More guns. So right now, basically, our gun choices are what? KO, shoot
mixed
cast,
order shooting,
Skaven.
mixed order shooting. Yeah, like there's some merc shooting that maybe people could bring in. Okay. Does this stuff rise commensurate in value? Are we going to finally see the much lauded return of shooting? Is this have we finally reached the point?
In a word, yes. I mean, that's certainly where the meta's trending. Finger to the wind, like these point changes alone to KO. I said sort of like off the cuff on Twitter going into like Brew City, Milwaukee tournament. We had like 50 people, good tournament. I said off the cuff, like if I was just going into this and I was the sort of guy who just had into this meta where it was Flesh Eater Courts are sort of showing up and Skaven are sort of showing up. I'm like, if I was the kind of guy who just had a KO army sitting on the shelf, I would just show up to this tournament and play and just see what it's like. And that mentality now, like, it just doubled because the points got aggressive to where it's a good decision now to actually just take your KO off the shelf and go to a 30-person, 50-person tournament and start testing the waters, because you've got bodies and you've always had good shooting. It's just they had hamstrung your number of bodies, and you've got a better delivery system for those bodies. The thing is, I think we got to pump our brakes a little bit on the shooting meta. It wasn't just that KO got nerfed. The meta changed with things like Lookouts, Sir, and stuff like
oh sure,
more terrain on the table. More terrain on the table, army terrain.
The realm effects that are still around, inhibiting the range of shooting. Yeah.
Like there were other things that happened to range. So it's not going to be like it comes back in full force and just boom, here it is. It's it's the answer to everything. But yeah, it's coming back. It's been gradually coming back. I think Skaven was really the kind of the last piece of the last piece to push it over the edge.
Yeah, the other two shooting that I didn't mention that should be mentioned here are Ruck, Bone Splitters, and Skaven, who ostensibly can certainly put a shooting force on the table, right?
Yeah. And, I mean, even
I'm counting, by the way, Free Guild or anything under Tom's sort of mixed order, because okay, there you go.
Yeah, I don't consider Free Guild shooting, because it's not good. Like,
whoa, and shots fired at the coach.
Well, and simply, like, to be clear, I say that because it doesn't have the range. Like, it doesn't have the range needed to actually do range. It can't project threat 36 to 48 inches when it needs to. And like, say what?
It's going to get outshot or charged. Like,
right, it's going to get outshot or charged. And so, like, I say that to say that, like, I just don't consider it viable. Where I think a mixed order with mixed KO and like a lot like the dwarf list, where you have a kind of a mixed arms force. I think that there's legs on something like that. And I think there's legs on. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
Okay.
I think there's a couple cities in there that can give you some tricks for your shooting.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you've got like obviously the Grey Water Fastness, my favorite particular city from Firestorm, where all your big guns get to fire, all your war machines get to fire in your hero phase on 6s. But I mean, realistically, actually, you've got stuff like Tempest Eye, which is the real powerhouse of it. Like I'm still shocked to this day we haven't seen some mixed order Tempest Eye lists, because I just think there's such unbelievable potential in that. And and by the way, they have like a really good selection of things that you can go in Tempest Eye.
But that's no, go ahead.
I don't know what you're talking about. Highborn archers backed by Sea Wardens, where the money's at.
Well, but this is the type of thinking people are going to have to do for this meta. That's why I'm excited, because people are going to have to start looking at things like that to have answers to some problems that before you felt helpless against. You didn't feel backed into a corner before to like have to innovate. Innovation is spawned by constraint and having like a puzzle to solve. You like if you're complacent with like I'm good going 4-1 with my list that I can take into any meta, you're actually going to have to start processing. Okay, there's going to be guns now. There's going to be walls. There's going to be all these things. Spellcasting armies. I actually feel like apart from like endless spell spam is in a weird, unsatisfying place, because there's really one great like spells are your shooting army in the game, and for everybody else, it's just like unfun,
right,
cheeky, stupid stuff. So like,
yeah. I mean, what's interesting here to me is how many different. I mean, here's what I'll say: there are a lot of interesting different ways that this can go that are all pushing away. All this stuff we've talked about is pushing on the basically all melee meta we've had for the past year and a half, right? Now, how does that actually evolve? Does melee still become king of the ring? Because it's still certainly the dominant force.
And it could be.
But there's a lot of potential give points now, like what places where this dam could break, right? Is what I'll say.
Yeah.
All right, which leads us into the final topic I want to discuss tonight, which is the future. Okay. So talking about, this is strap on your tinfoil hats, folks. It's time to get crazy. So we're going to talk about how we could see potential releases that come in affecting everything. Put on your hats, think about whatever book you want, structure the way that you see the meta evolving. Okay. And like what would move it? What could move it? What doesn't move it? These combine the releases we think are coming or don't know or whatever with everything we've said thus far, and sketch to me a potential future, an imaginary land. Okay. Andrew, would you like to start or would you like me to start?
I'd like you to start, I think.
Okay. I've got an answer. Here we go. Ready? Okay. Number 1, Tomb Kings come back. They're an elite shooting army. I think Tristan went to bed, and that's a real shame. He would have enjoyed this. Here we go.
Screaming Skull Catapult, like bring it back.
I don't know what it means.
Okay.
Like there's some kind of elite shooting army, okay?
Ushabti.
As has been rumored. Yeah, like Tomb Kings were classically a shooting army. They had a dimension of that. Anyways, everybody brought bows, like, your horsemen with bows and chariots with bows and Ushabti with bows and giants with bows, like everyone screaming Skull Catapults. Like it was a thing. So it's a reasonable way that, like, if that army somehow returns and comes back as an elite shooting army, as hath been rumored, okay?
Yeah.
To me,
to be clear, we're not pulling this out of our butts. Like,
yes, this is a real rumors, but it's just a rumor
that they're coming in October.
So let's assume it's a thing for a minute, because this is tinfoil hat time. Okay. I think that's a really interesting world, because elite has a natural counterbalance to it, right? We all know that like Stormcast and ogres and stuff like that have this natural weakness. Elite has its own sort of drawback to it. But it would also but shooting places them in a place where most of the other elite forces don't have. As say, I mean, I understand Stormcast, Shootcast are a thing, blah, 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 whatever. But this could be heavier leaning into that in different ways. It could be a very interesting force. I think it would be a great shakeup. If they have anything that looks like some of the old rules where they had lots of spells that could speed people up, you know, where like they always had this kind of light magic to them and moving faster and getting around the table and stuff, that could be rather compelling and could be a real sort of, could be a real game changer. To me, that force actually shows up even with sort of average rules as a highly impactful meta force. So there you go.
Yeah. Another thing, and this is I jokingly bash on TK literally every opportunity I get, but this
because it's fun.
It's fun. It's a meme, but it's a meme, and people need to know that I'm breaking character when I want to throw a bone to TK. First off, LOL, like Undead was usually united back in the day traditionally, so bring it all back. I want it all. You know. The other thing is Total Warhammer is super successful. It's perhaps one of the most successful like video game IPs they've had since it all fell through with Warcraft and everything, right? Darkcraft.
Whatever, like Dawn of War is classic, I think, right?
Yeah. So like Total Warhammer, to this day, every time a day doesn't pass where I will scroll through Facebook, maybe I happen on TGA because I like get lost on the internet. Like it'll someone will come over. Oh, dude, I was just playing Total Warhammer. Can I play TK? Where are TK? And then you're like, not technically. It's such a just bad move to not allow people who play your awesome game. And I know Age of Sigmar is different and we want them all to like, it's a different world, different stuff. But you got to have that. Like, if someone shows up and wants to play Dwarves, I can point them to Fire Slaves pretty comfortably. Or I can point them to Kharadron Overlords pretty comfortably. And if they want to play Dispossessed or something more traditional, then you start talking mixed or so on and so forth. The point is I can do that with just about anything you play in their digital realm. And we live in a digital world. And to bring them to the tabletop, and you have this thing that's just a funnel straight to the tabletop of playing this game, and you're not capitalizing nearly enough. TK should exist, period.
Sure.
In what form that takes, debatable. But they should exist, and they can't have. They're going to have a slight rebrand because you got to copyright, pseudo-Egyptian skeletons and mummy stuff.
Whatever, just remake it. Which I'm excited.
Give it the KO treatment.
I would love to have to buy more TK. Believe me, I'm not sad about it. It's fine. It's cool. I'll fill a whole freaking bookcase. I'll do it. Don't make me do it. All right. Yeah. So who else has got a potential future?
All right. Yeah.
Go ahead.
KO gets remade.
Okay. That book actually re-releases. Then they're rebuilt from the ground up, $6 million man style.
Yes.
Yep. And it's not a bad play experience. And there's real shooting. I think that that puts it in a healthier spot. Because right now there's a big question of like what happens to all the skyhooks. Which they're obviously going away.
They go to 1 in 10 is the answer.
Yes, they go to 1 in 10. That's exactly right. But I still think that you get a viable book out of the deal.
Yeah.
And I think that KO takes a much more central role because it gets an updated book with all the new toys that you'd expect from an updated book. And it takes a much more central role in the meta than the boogeyman.
I would love to see that too, because the Constitution idea is, and we've seen enclaves just kind of, they're getting better at making like the enclave style thing when you make your list. God Seekers and Slanesh for their host and stuff like that. The phrase I think were in Beasts of Chaos, but like I would love to see that, like, you write your own Constitution enclave type thing. I would love to see that actually equate to more than a +1 to hit random niche things, but to actually be a fully fleshed out idea. And that really helps you tailor your army, because unless you get some new kits with that new tome, and like I think you could throw in a new kit or two, new battle line, something like that. But like unless you do that, they're still gonna look a little samey on the table. So at least to have them spiritually, my KO is this much different from your KO, because like you know, I went with this constitution or whatever. And I think that would be a really cool place for that army to exist in the future.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah, I honestly can't, like, that rewrite is happening because
Right.
duh. Like, it's famously the biggest, you know, sort of, let's just call it
blunder.
what it is. It's the biggest blunder we have in AOS history,
Well,
right?
You buy the book and it's just wrong.
Right. And so, like, it's a great looking army. It's one of the most beautiful things they've ever modeled out. It's got so many good ideas, and it got to near the finish line and it didn't just fall down. It imploded. You know what I mean?
It tripped all of the models nearby.
It was
knocked
like
them
that.
all down.
Sure, it's like that. It's like that. There's got to be a better way meme, you know, thing where like somebody's trying to get the thing off the pan and like hits the bacon, it goes out the window, and then it ends in a nuclear bomb explosion. You know, through some sequence of events. That's kind of what happened there. So yeah, and I think they're so ripe to be impactful. Okay,
right.
So let's talk about STD for a minute. Okay.
Okay.
Ever Chosen, Slaves to Darkness, Dark Oath, whatever it is. Here's my hot take. Right.
Yep.
All right. I think we're going to see the book this weekend. Like, I think they're going to announce it. That it's coming on the back of Warcry, as I stated at the beginning of the show. And I think it's going to come out and do nothing with the meta.
I agree with that completely.
It will change nothing.
I so agree with that.
It is an army.
It will be the worst.
Like, no, like, it'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to come out and hit right in the middle and do nothing to change the meta. It's not going to be overtly good or bad or whatever. It's just going to be fine.
We're going to get
because, yeah, it'll just be like STD will be like ground pounding barbarians and warriors and knights, and just like it's to all the concepts that we already know are there. They're not canning that model range, right? And so, like, we already know what those things look like for the most part. And they are mostly elite melee foot sloggers. And it's just like, yep, they'll probably have good rules. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's going to be a bad book. Not what I'm saying. I think it'll be a really cool book. And I think it'll be, like, flavorfully awesome. I think it'll be rules compelling and have basically zero impact on the meta. Right? If the pH is 0, it's going to stay 0. It turns it neither acidic or base. Right?
Yeah. One little sort of piggybacking off of that point. I really like the Fire Slayers release for the meta for one really big reason we haven't talked about. They proved to me they can make a good elite army. And so, like, I have a lot of hope for the future where they've reimagined like what an elite army should look like. Fire Slayers is essentially kind of what I feel like Stormcast Eternals should be. They're just actually meaty, big, beefy dudes that deal the damage, take the damage, and no,
but with less mobility.
Well, you
and the same amount of bodies.
So you give, but like that. What I'm thinking though is they've shown me you can kind of do it, and then now you release BCR again, ogres again. You set yourself up for armies like that.
That's fine. That, I mean, if they can design something like that, but here's the deal. I think there are still holes that make Fire Slayers non-competitive. Like, in the long run.
Sure.
It's too easy to snake objectives from them. It just is. You give me a well-balanced faction that can teleport around the board or deep strike, and you will steal objectives from Fire Slayers.
Okay.
Like, in high objective scenarios. So if you get a 6 or 8 objective scenario, the Fire Slayers aren't keeping their home objectives. It's not possible.
Well, they don't like to be pulled apart, right?
Yeah, they don't like to be pulled apart. And they don't have bodies to spare. And so even allies, like, they're just not, like, okay, fine, you get 10 Arcanaut Company. Guess what? 10 Arcanaut Company aren't going to do anything because they're going to implode if anything deep strikes and touches them. Like, and even something like Longbeards, like, they're just not going to be able to survive well enough to do what...
You've got answers within your own tome. Instead of taking giant blobs, actually, like, some smaller units to spread around. And like I said, this isn't about, like, Fire Slayers itself.
Right. You're saying conceptually.
Conceptually, they have proven to me that they've finally figured out what an elite army, like, giving up those models is a huge, being elite has its own downside. You said it earlier.
Yes.
Right.
And they figured out where you set that trade-off level for what the amount of damage it should take, what the amount of damage it should deal, and kind of some of its ancillary buff and like, you know, flavor to taste type things that they can do to it. And that's what I like about that sort of going forward. I think they can take that idea and like, okay, so we did it as dwarves, and dwarves are just honestly, Fire Slayer's just trying to be slow. They're frothing at the mouth, injecting like volcano heroin into their into their bloodstream. They should just be sprinting across the board and just like mauling you to death. I think that, but they have to be dwarves, and dwarves have to be slow. But like now the next army, they can like not do that. They don't have to be slow. So you have now not elite, or now you have elite, not slow guys really starting to do some stuff to the meta, because you're going to have shooting. Shooting's coming back. We get your TK idea. There's a couple of other ideas I think I'd really like to see. But like now you have elite bodies who don't take models off because you just take extra wounds off. It's like the Nurgle thing. Nurgle's like kind of naturally resistant to shooting because they get penalties against shooting, but then they also have the extra wounds. And so like starting to see like more elite armies, making the game more approachable, and not you're a complete loser for buying 2-star collecting BCR and like trying to play the game. Like,
well, so let's talk BCR for a moment. Okay. So let's assume we get like some kind of BCR re-release. For the moment, let's just talk about BCR and sort of Gutbusters as some kind of combined overdone.
Yeah.
If they go that direction, if that's what ends up happening, which I'm not sure I prefer or not, but let's just say it does. Okay, whatever. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But for the moment, let's talk about them as a thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. I would hope if they go that direction, they go like the sort of the Skaven conceptual way of like, what I mean is just that the units, the sub factions retain their flavor internally. You understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like how, again, I'm not asking for them to be a Skaven book, okay? But like the core concepts of Skaven are really good, in that the idea that like you still have Eshin, and Eshin acts like this, and your Eshin heroes do this thing and whatever. Like that's a really good concept. We can argue about the execution of it because that's where things went wrong, right?
Right.
But like conceptually, Skaven are great.
Mm-hmm.
In the fact that the clans retained their individual theme and nature. So I would love to see like Gutbusters and the tribes and those kind of things versus BCR retain that stuff. And then like under the BCR stuff, they can have different Everwinter thing. And then under the regular Gutbusters, they can have whatever their tribes are, and we can call it a day. Cool. Great. Right. And if they go that direction, I hope to beyond hope, please, can we finally get the like large and in charge rule? Because that's what's going to make them actually be an interesting thing.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
right? Just let me unpack that real quick. By large and in charge, I mean like they would count. You could unpack it in several different ways, but like they would count wounds, for example, instead of models for bodies on an objective or something like that, or whatever. There's a couple different methods. Look at like how custodes are done in 40K, and you can see another option of how you could do it. The point being is that there are something where that elite cost is counterbalanced by an ability to just say, look, we only got 4 dudes, but our 4 dudes are worth your 20 dudes or whatever.
Yeah, for holding an objective.
That and also the Gutbuster huge cannon guys, because those guys are great. They look great. So you can be like ogres that are just elite, like the most elite shooting you can possibly get in the game. It's just huge dudes. Yeah.
So, and I mean, I think that could be actually quite impactful, because if they did put them all back together, there's and assume new war scrolls, there's actually a really interesting range of models of sort of ranged capabilities and ambushing and just packs of just meat, just massive packs of meat.
Yeah, welcome to Meat Mountain.
Yeah, Meat Mountain, absolutely. Like that, there's a lot of actual interesting things going on there that you could see like a couple war scroll rewrites away, and like those combined rules from that army, if they had that kind of thing that counterbalanced their elite nature, they suddenly become a real player, right? Because if they can march 48 wounds in a 12 pack of ogres that's fairly just meat resistant onto something, and those 12 ogres are worth 40-ish bodies, that's a tough thing to suddenly take that away from them, right? So yeah, there could be an interesting world there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the worst case scenario is to not go far enough, I think, with reimagining them, and just you're like, here you are, you're soup now, and not actually give them new scrolls and rewrites. I'd hate to see that happen, but yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, if people don't like my count wounds ideas, I'm just giving an example of how it could be done. There's 10 different mechanics you could pick to get at this. That's why I tried to say some kind of large and in charge rule, right? Like every one of them counts as 5 or whatever. Like I don't care. Pick a thing. Like I'm not doing the design and development on it right now. I'm just saying it's easy to imagine some extrapolation of that rule set, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, don't get hung up on the details. We're not actually writing the book here.
Yeah, don't at me.
Don't at me. I don't care. I'm not writing the book, folks. All right. Tom, what else? What else you got? Anything else you think that as far as meta moval? I do like your pregnant pauses tonight, by the way. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's really thinking.
I am. I think that a redesigned Tzeentch is a real big question.
Okay.
Because when that drops, it's gonna change things.
Ironic.
Weird.
Appropriate.
I don't know if Nurgle's gonna get rewritten anytime soon, but I think Nurgle needs it. Nurgle needs it. Yeah, but it doesn't matter because they have the new spine on their book. So they're stuck. Yeah, I mean, elves are the big question. Like, I just don't know that we have any conception of what they might look like other than ninjas.
Well,
ninjas
sure.
Again. Ninjas
angel
again.
elves. I mean, they're angel elves. It's
maybe or ninja angel elves.
Well, on either side, right? Is it going to be Ulgish? Are we going to get Ulgish elves, or are Malarian and Teclis stay separate?
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So that would be the first question. But like, you can actually, they can put that on the back. I feel like with Slaanesh coming back, it was like the sort of like tail end of this Soul War set should be elves are back, because they kind of go hand in hand, and so maybe they're not going to.
Slaanesh isn't back yet. Like Slaanesh hasn't been freed, so like let's be clear that narrative move has not happened yet. That narrative move will need to happen before elves return,
and that would be a great way to sell that the way they're about to do Dark Oath, hopefully, and stuff like that. I think you could have a really nice tie-in event where like, okay, Slaanesh is free and or whatever, and elves now are moving to stop the final push of them.
And the elves are back, bitches. Yes.
Yeah. But go on if you.
No, I didn't have anything else.
But like actually. I ended up playing Wanderers in the wild at a tournament.
Okay.
And it made me get like really curious about them, because playing against them, I'm like, I could afford to make mistakes against them because I'm on the better army and stuff like that.
Because they're not good, yeah, sure.
Right. Yeah. But like when
that was just like, a dig at Wanderers players I know are in the comments for no reason.
Right.
No, Wanderers are an interesting army, but they are like they're very they don't have the full range, and they are very much like it's always riding on a knife's edge, because if you make a bad play, you suffer for it in one.
But I will say this, like I've written some lists that I'm like, maybe.
Yeah, and they're floating in that spot right now. But what they don't lack is lore. They're actually like of the non-tome armies, and you could go on like high elves, and like high elves aren't really an army. They're from before,
right?
Like, but of the like they actually have Age of Sigmar canon. They basically like pieced out through like the spirit waves or whatever the heck, the spirit path or whatever it's called, and like they have like this actually like really interesting sort of rich like background within the world, where I think you could give them a full book, give them like a forest dragon. Now you've got some shooting back. Give them a forest dragon, like Eternal Guard.
You mean the originator of Always Strikes Last?
Yeah, it's time. Just do it. Like if you're gonna uncork that genie, you might as well make a wish. Sure. Like they've already done it with like Always Strikes First. The activation wars are here, whether we like them or not. Shooting was kind of a little bit in a reaction to that, but not necessarily the answer. It was just something you could do. And the shooting, with the exception of like one army, just wasn't there yet. Now we've got a GHP. Now we've got a couple armies where I do think the shooting is there as a response. But yeah, like bring in some elves that like that. Sylvaneth are in like kind of a neat place right now for technology, but like you're going to see a lot of like Kurnoth and stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
And spites.
Lots of spites. Like it's just Kurnoths and spite revenants, and like maybe a Drycha, because she's like what you wanted to play with. She's just a solid, cool model. You wanted to play with her, and now you don't have to like have that that voice at the back of your head saying this isn't the best thing to be playing with, and you feel bad about it. Now it's like, oh, dude, like shoot bees at people, 20 of them, let's go. Like, I want to see a Wanderer's Tome, and I didn't think I would say that because I'm like, a little bit on the emo and heavy metal side of like my armies. They always have like, if it can't be on a rock and roll album cover, I don't want to play it. Like, and so like, but like, hey man, like, Slaanesh is Prince, and Prince is legit. So like, we could go a little bit further with like Wanderers. I didn't think I'd want to see a Wanderer's Tome, but like it's fitting right in with what you're talking about, like an army that could push the needle on the meta a little bit. They still have some pretty cool sculpts, and just a little reimagining, give a little nudge. The lore is already established. You don't need to like how Dispossessed, they're like, okay, let's make up Fire Slayers and KO and like completely new things with new model. You can do that with just boom, Wanderers. Here you go, and then
Nope, I'm with you. Look, I don't know what angel elves are, but but they should all fly. Period. Everybody has wings.
Yeah.
Every model has wings. Period. They all have wings. There is not a model in the army that doesn't have wings. The higher up you go in the army, the more wings. Bigger and more. I want like the 6-winged angels, the like that, like the
7 wings. Stuff. Odd wings are more powerful. Everyone knows that.
Good call.
Okay, I'm gonna take the mic away from you, Vince, and say that the other thing that could really shift the meta, like it would be a really subtle move, but I think it would be a really powerful one. And I think it's more than possible, is that we actually see the combined elf tome. Like I know that there's been this rumored combined elf tome for a while. But tome, let's say that says that like, Teclis is like, I'm back, bitches, and I'm surprising you because my agents have been here all along. And like Swift Hawk and Cleage Hurricane and like a bunch of the classic elves get rolled into one. Probably not Phoenix, but like your dragon folks, and then like Swift Hawk, Collegiate, and your Drake, your dragon knights. And I think you suddenly have a really and then maybe White Lions, I don't know, interesting like set of tools, from wizards to shooting to infantry. You have some nice threat across the board, and then you throw them some spells and some special abilities.
You're saying basically slap together all the tools they have, put a new coat of paint on it so it's actually functional together in some way.
Yes.
Right? And boom, you actually have a functional army that's going to be, again, impactful in the meta because it does bring a quite vast toolkit.
Right. And I think that it could, and it counters like Slaanesh very well because it has strong shooting and it does not give up depravity.
Well, sure, because they're all 1 wound dudes. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah. Fine. I'm down with that. Yeah, sure. Do that. 100%. Like because I personally couldn't care about any of those little kits, but I know a lot of people love them. Like I would want a Scourge Privateers book before I would care about that elf book if you were asking me personally. Okay.
Sure. But I'm not.
I understand that. And I also know that my opinion is probably in the minority there, by the way. I've just never cared for old high elves at all. But yeah, let's do that book. Let's absolutely do that. Let's get that out there. Let's get a ton of collections that people really love back on the table and usable. Yeah, let's knock it out. Okay. And then let's get them angel elves fired up and let's make that the elite flying multi-wound elves, and then they've got a completely different reason for existing.
Yeah. Right? I like Age of Sigmaring the lore a little bit more than bringing the old stuff back, which is why I felt like I was going a little off my own main sort of ethos and perspective.
Sure.
But like, yeah, I like KO is like a great example where they're like, what are dwarves in Age of Sigmar? And they just like, they looked at them and they kind of turned them on their side. They have a pleasing aesthetic, a good concept. And like, I want to see that done with elves more than I want to see old elves come back. But Wanderers, it's kind of a shame they don't have a tome. Looking at they're so deep on like by themselves, and they already exist in the Age of Sigmar lore. appropriately, whereas like the fractured bits of high elves are just like clearly left over.
Sure.
To me.
Yeah, I mean, yes. They are they are basically a bunch of rind as an army. Yes, I agree. We've just peeled all that away, gotten to the good fruit, and just they're on the bottom of the bar floor waiting to be swept up at the end of the night after all the good drinks were made. So, as far as I'm concerned, they can just be just take them out and just get rid of them. But again, I know that's a minority opinion, but I've never ever hidden my hatred of all things high elf. This goes back forever, frankly. I've never ever liked them. And but fine. If it's gonna make people happy, there you go. Okay.
You should be allowed to play with what you love.
Absolutely. I don't want to take away, I don't want to yuck anybody else's yum. That's correct.
Yeah.
Besides, if they come back and they're good, then I get to hate them again, which is like actually even better for me. So let's do that. Like, it's more fun that way.
Oh yeah, righteous indignation is like the best feeling in the world. It's why I do what I do. Because I just
absolutely
all that stuff.
Yeah. All right. So is there any other potential future stuff that we want to touch on before we call it a night? Any other future potential meta shifters or meta things we think are relevant?
People cracking the puzzle on Night Haunt. Because
I mean that's going to happen. New Night Haunt has gas.
Sorry,
no disagreement.
Yes, I mean I'm building Night Haunt right now.
Yeah,
here's the deal. I think Night Haunt has bodies. It has the mobility. It has the tools that it needs to play in the endless spell game, in the all the games, but it's going to be a finesse army, and so it's going to take it'll take the right pilots. It won't be able to just you won't plop down stuff and just push it across the table.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's what I'll say.
That was me just kind of bracketing that I think there's some tools that exist within the current armies that can shift the meta.
No, I agree.
And people haven't. So like new tomes, like it's great to speculate on new tomes, and we all have a wish list. But help may not be coming for 6 months. If Dark Oath and stuff like that, that is just Blades of Corn 2.0, where it's a good tome, but it doesn't really move the needle because it's just doing more of what's already happening. So like you're just like reskinning a different army because you just want to play with different models. But there are other answers within the meta. I think Night Haunt is one of them because, like Tom said, they play in all of the phases of the game across all the different meta armies. Like, shooting, I'm invisible. I mean, in the underworld, can't shoot what you can't, what's not there type thing.
Right.
As a final request, as they've sort of made their stated goal that they want all of the tomes updated by the end of 2020, right? That's been sort of the stated goal.
Yep.
So for that they hope to address everything, but again, that doesn't mean every army gets a tome, right? Some things get rolled in, condensed, collapsed. Like by 2020, they've sort of tackled everything in whatever way they're going to tackle it. Fine. My request would be if I had like one little wish listy weird thing to happen, would be to have the picture from the very first, one of the very first AOS images was like Stormcast marching next to Devoted to Sigmar dudes, right?
Yeah.
We had that recent Devoted to Sigmar win this last weekend.
Yeah.
Like Devoted to Sigmar seems so ripe for an actual build out for new sculpts, for some interesting thing being done to them. Do whatever. Okay. I don't care. You can jettison everything that exists. I'm not going to I would rather you didn't. I would rather you keep the warrior priests and stuff because they're pretty cool, and the witch hunters, which are pretty cool. I think those are actually awesome models and have really cool narrative and stuff in the world right now. So please don't. But if that's what it takes to get that concept back on the table, fine. But I would love to see something like that built out into this kind of. I mean, people have kind of mentioned in the comments an Inquisition order or something like that. There's so much cool potential there. It needs more. Right now, it's not a real army. It's 5 kits that aren't a real army. Awesome work to that player who took second place. And, laser beams that are super solid against chaos are scary as all get out. Don't get me wrong. But actual Inquisition type dudes, like the sort of natural immune response that would happen as the humans decide to go fight these horrors, would be a super cool take to like end that cycle with. You know, so I'm cool with waiting until the end of 2020. I had no problem with that. Just could we have that happen at some point? It would be great. That's my ask. Yeah, not really a meta thing, just occurred to me. There you go.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I would love for them to update Devoted Sigmar. I've been wanting that army for a while.
Yeah. No, I did not ask for more Stormcast LLV. I most certainly did not. I said Devoted. Human-y stuff.
They're different, yeah.
Yeah, human-y human people with guns and rapiers and hammers and cool stuff like that. And laser beams. Freaking laser beams. All right. So, gentlemen, I think that brings us to the end. So we'll see. Time will tell on this one. Those are our meta predictions. We'll see how it goes. You know, obviously we now have the luxury of all these stats. We got a lot of tournaments happening. Midwest Meltdown is coming up here, basically not this coming weekend, but the weekend after. And it's going to be that'll be a big tourney. A big shout out to Domus for putting all that together. I wish him all the best. Everybody who's going, have a good time. We got some big tournaments happening in the next couple months. So we'll see how this all shapes out. But time will tell. Mr. Mephisto, thank you very much for joining us tonight, buddy. It was good to have you on the show for the first time.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure pontificating with you all, gentlemen.
That's always what we're looking for. Good pontification. And we look forward to having you back in the future. To all of you out there who are watching, thank you very much. Always appreciate it. And we'll see you next Wednesday.